Just want to make sure I have everyone on there muted. And it looks like I do, so we should be good.
Right.
I'm gonna just stick it here. Do you want? I've got recorded audio and video.
Good to go.
We are good to go.
All right, I'm called over the Town of Lisbon Plan Commission meeting at the Town of Lisbon Town Hall on Thursday, January 14th, 2021 at 6:31 p.m. We get a roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman,
Here.
Supervisor Plotecker,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Meyer,
Here.
Commissioner Olhafen,
Here.
Commissioner Samansky.
Present.
Got Supervisor Brahm.
Here.
We've got Planner Holloway on Zoom, Attorney Michael Van Clunen. We've got Engineer Mitch Lassise on Zoom, Administrator Kathy Nicholas, and Clerk Elisa Capazzo to record the minutes. Have I missed anybody?
So we have a quorum of the Town Board and of the Plan Commission. All right, so we'll go to the public hearings. Public hearing number 1 is a joint public hearing to consider a request by KKNN Lindale LLC for amendment to the land use plan map from rural density and other agricultural land, other open lands to be preserved, and secondary environmental corridor to low density residential and SEC for the property located at North 48 West 27368 Lindale Road and known as LSBT 0268.999. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on this public hearing tonight?
Doug Clark, N48 West 2721694 or 27214. I had presented a letter to the town chairman, and I just wanted to see if it was distributed to everyone, and that if there was any questions that anyone had to that. And I think it kind of speaks for itself. Understand this is a $30 million deal, and this is how people make their living, and I don't take that lightly, and it's very serious. So I just think the property has some serious issues that could put the town in serious condition, possibly open it up to legal action. Same with the developer. I think he needs to be aware that the property has got not about 90% hydric soil, and that the groundwater is at according to the county, 1 foot underneath the surface of the property. So just in wanting to protect everyone, the developer, the town, and the landowner, just thought everyone should know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Would anyone else like to go? Anyone else for this public hearing? We'll close that public hearing at 6:35 and go on to public hearing number 2, which is the joint public hearing to consider a request by Right Way Bus LLC for amendment to the land use plan from rural density and other agricultural land and other open lands to be preserved to low density residential for the property located at North 95 West 23759 County Line Road, also known as LSBT 0150.997. Lands mapped as PEC primary environmental corridor are not proposed to be amended. Does anyone wish to speak on this public hearing tonight?
Lisa Otis is asking to speak.
Oh, yep.
Just a minute. Lisa, you should be open.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Lisa Otis, ODDIS. I live at W220N9359 Town Line Road. And I have a few things I would like to talk about. The first and foremost item is that I object to these rezonings that are rezoning conservancy land and corridor land. I moved to Lisbon 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, to enjoy the benefits of a healthy habitat, a rural setting, and lots of green space, as well as a government that I felt had where I would have a bigger voice in government and in the affairs affecting us compared to living in a city. I lived in Milwaukee and in other cities. Concerned about the absence of information for residents about decisions the town is making. And these main things are: one, rezoning of A10 zoned and conservancy zoned and corridor zone lands to go to an R2 or less, which will be higher concentrations of properties and housing, smaller lots. During a previous meeting, the Plan Commission could not remember or recall why we had so much land at A10. And one thing that was not considered was, hey, is that what the residents want? And as I recall from our meetings about incorporation in the past, and the notes I have about the long-range comprehensive plan, that's what I recall. Residents wanted to preserve those larger spaces. Now, so that is one concern I have. Changes to the long-range comprehensive plan I know are being discussed. The last meeting, it was the last topic of a very long night, and there was very little conversation, and the discussion that did occur, I couldn't hear on a Zoom meeting. I understand that the minutes are not posted. I understand that the person that does that was out with COVID. Okay, I get that. But I can't find anything that, other than diving into lots of old notes about what's happening with that. And I'd like to know when the public is going to be asked for their opinions before the plan is amended. Also, the incorporation efforts. We need to hear the talk on that. The link on the website is broken.
Lisa,
Pardon me?
this is the Plan Commission end of it for the public hearings.
Mm-hmm. Is this not a time that residents can speak freely?
You can, if you can direct it towards the public hearings, it would be great right now. The board room would probably be the board meetings, would be a more of a place
Okay.
of discussion for the incorporation, since the Plan Commission.
Okay, that's okay. Let's do it. And I hope that we can get that link fixed so that there is information before going into these meetings, so that we as residents have up-to-date information so that we can discuss intelligently. Having to do with borders and annexation and rezoning of land, we have challenges for sure. I understand that, but it feels like there is no discussion, no communication between the Plan Commission and the town board and its residents. And I don't see why we can't all have some commission, or rather some discussion. We can share ideas, tap into resources, try to figure this out together versus having it decided by a small group of elected officials for our government. Going back to the rezoning, I feel that the green spaces are so important. We're in a time of global warming, of big time, big scale changes. And the extinction of native lands, plants, pollinators, wetlands that are our natural water control device, and the threats it poses to humans is huge. And I feel like we can try to conserve those areas, small pieces at a time, 1 yard, one A2 or A10 property. I feel it's absolutely necessary that we think about what we're getting rid of there, because right now we are in big time trouble from the natural world that supports us, from native plants, organisms in the soil, up to pollinators that help create food for us. So I feel very strongly that rezoning lands like this, conservancy land, corridor lands, getting rid of green space is going to be a bigger problem and does not address really any of these items. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, we have Jana on Zoom has her hand raised. Give me just a moment. Jana, are you there?
I am. I'm Jana Cedarholm, and I just wanted to, I heard Lisa speak and everything that she said. I just wanted to also oppose this rezoning for everything that she said, and that including the traffic and the congestion, the green space, the conservancy. And again, if this isn't the right place to do this, then I apologize. This is my first time chiming in. So anyway, I just wanted to say that, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this. So I will be looking for more information.
Jenny,
Thank you.
Name and address, please.
My address is W247 N8858 E-JAY Lane in the town of Lisbon.
And your last name?
Cedarholm, it's C as in Charles, E, D as in David, ERHOLM.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, give me just a moment. It looked like someone else had their hand raised, but the screen just changed. Okay, I've got Tom on Zoom.
Yes, hello, my name is Thomas Knott, Knott, and I live at N95 W25098 Whitewater Drive. I basically in 3 houses from the corner of Hillside and Highway Q. My backyard backs up against Highway Q. Now, with the current issue of, as we all know, Hillside and Highway Q, and it being classified by Washington County as the 4th largest high impact intersection that was turned down by both Waukesha and Washington County because of a simple payment of $45,000 on each side. And yet the county would pick up, or the state was going to pick up the remainder of it. Here we are looking at rezoning to add more and more congestion out here. How does any of this make sense? It doesn't. It does not make sense. Now, I understand a lot of people don't see this, but we see every accident that occurs there. I realize this isn't about that intersection, but it does definitely curtail the rezoning of our green spaces and adding more congestion to what already is congested without putting any fix into place already. So that is a major, major problem that's not being addressed to. And yet here we are talking about increasing for more houses being built, rezoning things. And I agree with Lisa in regards to, can you guys include us more with this and make it more readily available for us that have voted for you to do your jobs so that we are informed correctly? Because after all, I'm the one that lives here. I'm the one that lives there. I see everybody that's being taken away in ambulances, cars that are upside down in people's yards, cars that are upside down in people's driveways and whatnot. And this is just ludicrous. I can't believe that we're not putting in futuristic fixes for what's to come, yet here we are looking at all of this right now. It's like putting the cart before the horse.
Anything else, Tom?
No, I'm said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
I'll mute Mark.
Yep.
Does anyone else wish to speak at this public hearing?
Give me a second, I'm scrolling through Zoom. I do not have anyone else with a hand raised on Zoom.
Sir?
Scott Radke, North 95, West 23787, County Line Road. My wife and I have been to several meetings with these gentlemen. And it's clear to us that it's probably going to pass. But we have some questions about water tables and traffic and stuff like that. But I just want to make sure that we will deal with that in the future. And I just wanted to give our opinion, going from A10 to A2, you know, about what, 15, 14 years earlier than it's supposed to. It's supposed to go A10 till 2035. And I just want to give us, you know, give the opinion that we're against that. Obviously for traffic reasons, this and that, whatever, water table, whatever. But we're also aware that Mr. Carrick is a businessman, and if this goes through, we would like to have some idea of how it might affect the water table in the future, and maybe have recourse in the future. And we've talked about that. Am I correct, guys?
Certainly. Yeah, you just want to direct it. Up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So anyway, so I just want to go on record to say my wife and I are not totally against it, because we understand the way things move, but we do want to know about if this does go to an A2 and 19 homes are built, what is the future of the people that live in the area? So I just wanted to get this up to you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak in this public hearing?
Do one more
Anybody else
scroll
on
through.
Zoom? Yeah, one more check.
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, nobody else here would like to make any more comments in this public hearing? And we'll close this public hearing at 6:48. Go on to public hearing number 3, which is request by KKNN Lindale LLC to rezone approximately 47 acres of the property located at North 48 West 27368 Lindale Road, tax key LSPT 0268.999, from the A10 agricultural district to the R2 single family residential district. Would anyone like to speak at this public hearing?
Again, I'd like to, Doug Clark, N48 West 27214, Highway JK, Pewaukee, Wisconsin, Lindale Road. Again, the same concerns, same thing. Just wanted to make sure that my letter was put into the meeting notes, and again, I kind of object to the low density and the R2, and would like to see something a little more reasonable to what was put in the plan originally, the A10 or for, it's been that way for many years. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Is there anything that needs to be read into the record?
We did receive the 2 written comments. That one. That is for the,
You got copies?
that is for this one.
You want copies?
We should have, everyone in the
Yep.
plan commission should have your stuff. It was sent
Yes.
out.
And that one was as well.
This one was for which public hearing?
That one is for the Park River Preserve, so that is for public hearing number 4.
Or this is for public citizen comments, maybe, to Bark River.
Yes, for public hearing number 4. Is that right? Yes.
And the second one is for,
Nope, that's just the email.
you said there were two or just one? I'm sorry?
Yes.
And Mr. Clerk's, okay, which we have.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll read this one at the next one. Okay.
Yep.
All right, anyone who wants to speak at public hearing number 3?
All right.
Ms. Otis has her hand raised.
My name is Morgan Clark. I'm at N48W27214 Highway J here on Mill Road, just like my father. I would just like to publicly agree with everything that my dad wrote in our letter. I personally wanted to come up and speak because my grandpa built our home about 50 years ago. And so our property in particular means a lot to myself and to my family as a whole. I myself could see myself. So my dad purchased the house from my grandfather. And we've had discussions about the future of our home 20, 30 years down the road. And I myself see myself purchasing that property and then eventually moving in and potentially retiring there as well. One of the main reasons that I say that is because I love where it's located. I love having grown up with a cornfield next to our property and having 3 acres where I could just run around with my brother. Now, again, like my father said, I know that this is $30 million online, right? This is a huge deal, and this is the developer's land this is the owner's land that can make a lot of money off of it and can build a lot of homes and make a lot of money off of those. But you know, I just that land in particular, considering the issues that my father kind of wrote in the letter about the soil and potential for legal action if there's wet basement issues or things like that. Considering all of that, I think it could be a great option for Lisbon's Park Committee in particular to develop the land into a park that could be used by the townspeople. Again, I know lots of money is on the line. I understand that. I'm a 21-year-old that understands how the world works, but I think this is a great option. You know, the Park Committee says that they're committed to maintaining the parks that Lisbon has to offer and also expanding our green space. And I think that this land in particular could be a great option for that to happen, and show commitment to the people of Lisbon, and show commitment to preserving Lisbon's rural feel. While we're half an hour away from Milwaukee, it's nice to be here and feel like we're not shoved into a city where our voices don't matter, which kind of ties into everything that Lisa was speaking about on the second public hearing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is David Markland. I live at North 47 West 27335 Mundale Road. As Doug and Morgan have said, I agree with a lot of things they say. My family has owned the property that I own now for over 60 years. Most of the homes around us are 3 acres plus, except for obviously Lindale Farm subdivision and the Green Hill subdivision down the street. I understand, somebody owns land, it's their thing to develop it. I get all that. My main concern is that we don't end up with a little subdivision packed full of homes with tiny little yards in a neighborhood where everybody owns 2.5 acres somehow. And I'm also concerned about wells. My well is about 90 feet deep. It's beautiful, wonderful, clean, clear water. I updated it 5 years ago. I don't want to see, all of a sudden I got a dry faucet and wonder what's going on. Well, those are my concerns. I wanted to state at the meeting. I guess that's about it. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Lisa has her hand raised on
Yep.
Zoom.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you. I just want to state my objection to, again, rezoning conservancy land and corridor land that should be kept, that we should be preserving for all of the reasons that I stated earlier, and I agree with the sentiments of others that have spoken here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay.
Anyone?
Alexander Voigt, North 48 West 27008. I just want to say that if you guys are seriously going to move forward with developing this land or on them to develop this land, that we should be ready as a town to invest money in the roadway there. It is very underdeveloped.
I don't usually jump in, but I'm gonna, JK is a
Okay.
county road. So
Yes.
we don't have any
Okay,
jurisdiction on that, just so,
understood then.
and it is not.
Yes.
I agree.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me scroll through Zoom. I do not see anyone on Zoom with a hand raised.
Final call for anyone in the room for public hearing number 3.
Lisa has 2 hands up.
Go get it, Mark.
Lisa, you have to unmute.
Okay. I couldn't hear what that last gentleman said. Because it's kind of hard with him facing away, I guess, from where the microphones are. Was he talking about the roads around the area?
He was talking about JK and the Lindale the road.
Yep, yep. And I understand you said that that's out of our jurisdiction. Is it a county road? Is that why?
That is correct.
Okay. Have you gone to the county to discuss the needs of, developing that area if there is going to be this development of the land? Because the problem's still there, even if it's not in our jurisdiction, we're creating the problem if that land is rezoned and there are higher traffic impact on the area.
I will just chime in on that one real quick. The town of Lisbon has gone to the county in many instances of many roads in the community that are even far worse than this one,
Yep.
begging with the county to have these roads done. We have had limited to no success on any of that.
So do you feel that it's appropriate then to compound the problem that we have with the county in improving roads by, going ahead and rezoning areas that are going to make that problem worse and more dangerous?
I can address the other roads with you, Lisa, later. We can address the road issue when we get to the item then. Thank you.
Okay. That's great. Would love to discuss these things. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yep, hang on, I've got a guy with his hand raised on here. Anthony, you have your hand raised on Zoom. You need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So
Can you state your name and address, please?
sure. My name is Anthony Sluck. My address is N69 W25958 Brighton Drive in Lisbon. I think my biggest concern with redeveloping that and actually turning that into a subdivision, along with all the traffic that we're going to start seeing on these roadways, we had heard in the past about the one on Lake 5 in Silver Spring, that whole intersection was going to get redone when that subdivision got put in. It still has not. That's still a nightmare over there. But my biggest question is, why are we considering rezoning these and building more subdivisions when we have how many subdivisions in the town of Lisbon already that still are not even completely full? They have vacant lots. Why would we even consider that now? And then why would we even consider doing more subdivisions and increasing traffic on these roads that we know are issues until we address the traffic issues on the road? That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Anyone else first time? And then if not, we'll take that. Anyone else in Zoom?
Let's go on.
Oh, I just was wondering.
If you don't mind, we have a whole bunch of people that are on Zoom and they won't be able to hear you if you're not up front here.
Yeah. Again, it's Doug Clark. I just didn't know if if this is the point where I address certain lots that were in the plat, or is that in the next section?
So this is your opportunity to speak to the board. When this is,
Okay.
so there's one other part here, which is citizens' comments. After item 4, the discussion all remains up here. So nobody
Okay.
can make any more comments. There'll be no more interaction between the board and the public after this.
Okay. Okay, so on the map or the plat that was provided to us by Mr. Carrick, there is 4 lots that are in the Waukesha County shoreline jurisdiction, which I believe per the county rules, those have to be 5-acre lots. And right now they're showing 1-acre lots. And that dotted pink line is the Waukesha County shoreline jurisdiction land delineation. And it seems like it wasn't addressed properly by Mr. Carrick's designers. So I know there's one that's fully in that shoreline jurisdiction, and there's 3 that are partially in it. So
Okay.
those should be, I believe per county rules, those should be 5 acres. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have no one else on Zoom for this one.
All right, final call for this public hearing. I will close this public hearing at 7:03. Open the 4th public hearing, which is request by Railway Bus LLC to rezone approximately 42 acres of the property located at North 95 West 23759 County Line Road, Tax Key LSPT 0150.997, from the A10 Agricultural and C1 Conservancy District to the R2 Single Family Residential District. Does anyone wish to speak on this one?
I've got a hand raised on Zoom.
Okay.
Jana
Hi.
on Zoom.
Yes, this is Jana Cedarholm again, on EJ Lane. I just had, and I'm not, and I apologize, I'm not sure if this is where I could ask a question on how many houses would be in this development and how big are the lots?
Do you have access to the Town of Lisbon website?
I'm sorry?
Do you have access to the Town of Lisbon website?
Yes, is it listed in there?
Yeah, there's a packet in there. If you go under agendas and click on packets, it's
Okay.
all the information that we have available to us tonight.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay,
lot sizes, the number of homes, the roads, how they'll be.
okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. Can you tell me, what is it an acre per lot? Is that the minimum or no?
It'll be at least an acre per lot, yes.
Okay, okay. And that's the ordinance, correct?
That's an open question because there's different ordinances that can fit different things and PUDs can change things. But in this case, that is going to be, it'll be greater than 1 acre density per home.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I think Lisa had her hand up.
Mhm. Yep, give me a sec. Lisa on Zoom.
Yep, I am here. Lisa Otis again. Just want to register my objection to, again, rezoning land that is zoned conservancy and or corridor land, which this property is. I also want to say that I think traffic in that area is a big concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else? We got? Come on up, sir.
Ken Kramer, West 236, North 9222, Sagamore Hill Drive. First of all, I'd like to say I'm more in favor of this 19 lot project we're talking about rather than the one that presented earlier. I do have a little concern about the groundwater thing. But I have a bigger concern that if town doesn't go along with, or the town doesn't go along with this, the village of Richfield will try to annex that piece of land.
They can't.
They can't? Really?
It's a different county. They cannot annex across state county lines.
Okay.
Yeah, right now.
I got right now. Well, to that, and this is a different thing, become a village. the
Thank
town
you.
of Lisbon. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? One more check on Zoom. Hey, no.
Don't see any hands raised on Zoom.
Final call in the room then for this public hearing. Oh, actually, I'm gonna read this. Almost missed it here.
Okay.
After having it sit right in front of me. Michael Kinlan, North 94 West 23633, Hermitage Drive. He's lived there for 45 years. Why am I against this rezoning? My main concern is with the water runoff. My property borders wetlands, so most of the drainage from my subdivision runs into the wetland. The problem is in the spring when the snow melts and we get spring rain, this wetland looks like a lake because the water has nowhere to go. My water table rises and my sump pump starts running until the water table resides. The town of Lisbon has known about this problem for years. They even had a surveying engineer here to address the problem. In his report, he said to fix the problem, you would have to put in a retention basin, but it would have to be at the homeowner's expense. So I had a plumber install for me a 2 horsepower sump pump with a 2-inch discharge pipe. I also have a 1 horsepower pump with an 1.5 inch discharge pipe. At time, these pumps can run for days until the water recedes. What I am very worried about with this new subdivision is that I will get more water coming from the culvert under Mount Vernon Drive and Hyde Park Drive, run along the backside of my property into the wetlands, and my water table will rise even more. So what is the plan for water runoff without further impact to existing homes and presidential estate subdivision? If things worsen, I will be contacting legal counsel. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else there? We will close this public hearing then at 7:08. Move on to citizens' comments. So at this time, anyone has any comments, of anything on the agenda at all? Just gonna check the Zoom one more time. Lisa.
Yep. I do not see any hands raised on Zoom for citizen comment,
Rachel.
but Rachel's waving at me.
Hey, Lisa, we've got Lisa Otis as well. Raising her hand.
Yep, Lisa, you have to unmute.
Yeah, I would just like to propose that there is more discussion with residents, more information given to residents in some form about these issues of continuing to rezone land, which does not comply with our long-range comprehensive plan right now. I realize that we're past a 10-year option to review it. Maybe that means it has to stay the same, but it seems like your decisions are being made that are contradictory to that plan. So let's address that plan and as a community, not just, the government not addressing it, but not communicating with residents. Also, I propose that the issue and discussion around incorporation be made more public so that we all can talk about these things. Because I feel like what's happening is that we keep rezoning larger properties into smaller concentrated subdivisions is not a good direction for us to go. It's not what our plan mandated, and I don't think it's what a lot of residents want to see. And I think we need to work to find a solution to this problem. And I feel like there's no discussion on it. So I propose that there be more transparency and communication with residents with the opportunity to have discussions about what our thoughts are. Thank you.
Thank you. And being that on the agenda tonight is discussion only regarding the draft. It is only discussion, mind you, regarding the draft documents for the 10-year update to the Lisbon Comprehensive Development Plan. It would be a good time now if anyone did have any comments that they'd like to share on that, because there will not be a portion that speak about this later.
Chair Osterman, could I share a brief comment on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, my name is Rachel Holloway. I'm the planner. I work as a consultant planner for the town of Lisbon for the benefit of the residents attending. I just wanted to make a quick housekeeping note regarding the town's comprehensive plan update, which would be a 10-year update to the plan. That's at the bottom of the agenda tonight for discussion. And just to make a note that is, to be clear, that that's separate from the developer proposals on the agenda tonight that we've just held the public hearings for. Those are for map amendments driven by his proposed project, but the town at the same time, it just so happens, is also trying to do a 10-year update to its plan just to meet the statutory requirements, because the state laws do require that communities keep their plans updated and update them at least once every 10 years. The Lisbon's current plan was adopted in 2009, which someone just correctly pointed out that it's over the 10-year, it's over 10 years old technically. So although it has been updated from time to time as far as minor amendments, changes to the land use map, that is very typical for communities to do that, because the plans, that does look out to the year 2035, but it can't always anticipate everything that will happen, in that time frame. So, sometime between when a plan is adopted and when you go through a 10-year update a decade later, typically there are changes that communities want to make to their plans as they see fit. They do have the ability to do so. Currently, what's proposed for the 10-year update, the town did not ask me to do a large update to this. Currently, a lot of effort went into creating the current plan. And what's proposed right now is just sort of a bare minimum update to certain pieces that were attached to the plan that were specific to Lisbon, something just to take out the pieces that really no longer are accurate or don't apply. But there is a draft plan available right now on the town website, and that's the current, basically the first draft just posted there for the public hearing that is scheduled to be held in February. So it is on the agenda tonight, but it's not for action, as the chair pointed out. It's just currently available for public viewing. So if anybody is interested, that would be the place to see that plan. And just the few pieces that are proposed to be modified right now, the changes are identified. That's available on the town's website. And the changes, basically, to the extent that any changes are proposed, they have to be consistent with the rest of the town's plan. Should also be consistent with the county's comprehensive plan, which is technically separate, although there's a lot of interconnections there between the plans. And I think that's all I really had on that. As the planner, I'm always open to comments on what is being proposed, but our scope of work for this is very limited for this project. So we are not currently proposing any changes to the text within the chapters, various policies. There's a lot in your plan right now, and we're not trying to throw it all out or anything like that. Just make some changes to some of the things that are really outdated, because new intergovernmental agreements have been adopted, for example, and that's the nature of that project.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yep.
Does anyone else have any?
Yes, good evening. I'm Kent Rice, live at West 272, North 4791 Yench Road in Pewaukee. Literally right across the road Highway JK from the proposed development. A couple concerns. Dave Clark, I believe, mentioned earlier, I walked the entire property here before we had snow on it a couple weeks ago. There are wetlands back there. There's a conservancy area. There's shorelines. There's a pond back there, pond retention area. Cattails. I can't imagine why you would want to rezone part of that from A10 agricultural and some of it to C1, from C1 conservancy to R2 residential, when you've already earmarked it as conservancy land. I'm concerned about the density of those properties. As I believe Dave Markland mentioned, the properties in Green Hill subdivision, I believe the minimum size over there is approximately 1.7 acres. Mine's about 2.5 acres. The largest lot in that new proposed subdivision is 1.30. The next larger one is 1.26, and everything else is closer to 1.01, 1.3. So they're quite a bit smaller lots. Having walked that, there's a tremendous elevation drop from the top from JK down to the bottom of that property, the last 4 or 5 lots on that. I don't know how you're going to get that much density with the huge the elevation drops. Another huge concern, and this has been brought up several times. Highway JK is a dangerous highway to start with. There are no shoulders. Where there are shoulders, they're probably about 4 feet wide. The original proposal that Carrick and Point Realty gave to us in early December had the entrance coming in off of across from Highway JK, which is right over the peak of the hill on Highway JK. I pull out of that subdivision. If I'm going west, I pull out very cautiously and keep an eye on my rearview mirror because I cannot tell you how often I have somebody right on my butt as I pull out of there because I'm whipping over that hill. This is a proposal that at least, I mean, you're talking about 31 homes, you're talking a minimum of 62 cars coming in and out of there. Our subdivision, I swear there are 15 or 17 homes in our subdivision. I used to live at the back end of the subdivision. And I saw a cop car, the post office, and a garbage truck, and that was it. Now looking at the entrance of the subdivision, I swear it's Highway 16 and 994 with those 17 homes. Amount of traffic coming in and out of there. I can't imagine what that's going to do adding another 32 homes across the road from us. Well, I say it's already dangerous. So I'd like you to consider, I mean, if you're thinking about doing this, I would implore you to work with the county to do something with Highway JK. It's currently at 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. That needs to be reduced. We have a lot of dump trucks coming from the quarries east of us. We have a lot of semis coming across there to take the shortcut across Highway JK rather than turning down Highway KF to go to Highway 16. It's a dangerous area, and to add more traffic and congestion on it, I think is unconscionable. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Lisa?
I've got Lisa Otis on Zoom.
Unmuted, Lisa.
Yep, I am doing that. Rachel, can you tell me where on the website the draft document for the comprehensive plan is? Because I have looked for it and I just can't find it.
No problem. It's under, I'll just go there while we're talking. I usually go to the top where there's a government
Yep, I'm in that. I have it. I'm in
menu.
the drop-down. Yep.
There's a drop down that appears in green, and then there's a link for legal notices and public hearings.
Yep.
So I go there, and then there's a tab for public hearings.
Found it. Yep.
Yep. And then for 2/11/21 Plan Commission, there's a link there where you can see all of the draft
Great. Yep.
documents.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
All right, anyone else have any comments tonight?
Hang on, I've got Dawn on Zoom has her hand raised. Give me just a sec. Dawn on Zoom?
Can't hear you, Dawn. Dawn, we cannot hear you. Dawn, we cannot hear you.
You're not muted, but there's some other issue you're having on that end, I think.
You have to click on the hand or no?
Nope.
You can have her call in. She's still up there.
Dawn, would you like to call in with your comment?
Shake your head up, yes or no.
Okay.
Okay. Is anyone else?
I do not see any other hands raised on Zoom.
All
That's it.
right, we'll close citizens' comment then. Item 5 is discussion and approval of minutes. We have the Thursday, October 8th, 2020 minutes and the November 12th, 2020 minutes.
We have 2 edits on the December, so those will be at the next meeting along with this one.
Comments or questions on the minutes? Mr. Mark's unmuted.
Oh, hang on.
I don't think I got the minutes.
You don't have the minutes, Mark?
I don't.
Does anyone else? You guys have the minutes?
It should have been emailed
They're
out
not on the-
separately. They were not included with the packet.
There's been a separate email, Mark.
I'll look.
Everyone else have the minutes? Yes, no? Becky's got them. You got them, Brian. Ed, you have the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Chad, you got the minutes?
I have October's here.
No, November?
Oh,
November and
November is the last page, Chad.
Yep, I do.
Other questions, comments on the minutes? Is there a motion on the minutes? We want to hold off doing the minutes for now. We do need to get these on our website at some point, though.
Yeah, why don't we hold off? Give Mark a chance to look them over as well.
We'll
Okay.
postpone the minutes until the end of the meeting then. 5:05 for now. Item 6, old business, a discussion and possible action regarding amendments to Barnwood Development Agreement to address required tree sizes.
So the,
What else?
so we have, the Barnwood Conservancy District, is at subdivision, was required to put in 4 trees, 4 inches around. And they're asking, the board to, consider changing the size of the trees. I don't have any real understanding of why the 4-inch trees were put in place. But it would be the town board that would change the developer's agreement. And I just wanted to get your opinions on changing it from 4-inch trees, the same number of trees, but changing it to 2.5-inch trees.
2.5 or 2?
I thought he said 2.5, but 2 would be fine too. But just, we need to go, the cost of the trees at 4 inches are prohibitive, and we're asking them to put in 4. In addition, when they put in the 4, when they transplant 4-inch trees, sometimes they don't take because their root system is so disturbed.
Certain trees at that size, the roots are so large that you cut it out to cut through the roots and the trees don't have a great survival rate.
So do any of you remember the discussion, if you were here, when Barnwood was putting their subdivision together? Was the plan commission asked for 4 inches? I just,
No,
just trying to
they
get-
brought that to us. if
Okay.
My memory serves me. We wouldn't suggest a 4-inch tree.
okay, so,
So
We
that
talked
was,
about
that
the
was
number
their,
of trees.
what's that?
We did talk about the number
The
of
number of
trees.
trees we did, but
Talk
the
about the
size, that
size.
was to their,
okay,
Yeah, their discussion.
Does
okay.
anyone
Their
have an issue
discussion.
going to the smaller size tree?
No, because as you pointed out, Mr. Chairman, it's a 2.5 inch or a 2-inch tree is going to stand a better chance of surviving.
I'm actually surprised by the 4-inch.
Yeah.
That's a big tree.
Yeah, they have not had a lot of luck with some of their evergreen trees they planted on their berms.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but they've lost at least 20 to a third of the
Wow.
trees they put on their berms.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your
Anyway.
input. I
Yeah.
can move forward with.
Providing they're staying with the same number of trees, I'm okay with it.
And anybody have concerns?
No, I mean, what they have planted is well done. And the number is adequate, very adequate. So
Brian,
I'm good with reducing the size.
Mark?
I'm good.
Okay,
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
we're downsizing. Hmm.
Is anyone here for 6B tonight? It's a conditional use. Discussions on chapter 11 of the town zoning code related to conditional use permits. If not, I'm going to move it to the end of the agenda. We're also going to bypass 6B at this point then. I don't even want to bore people with that one. 7, new business. A, Mike Carrick, KKNN Lindale LLC for the approval of amendment to land use plan map for North 48 West 27368 Lindale Road, tax key LSBT 0268.999 from rural density and other agricultural land, other open land to be preserved, and secondary environmental corridor to low density residential and secondary environmental corridor. So this is discussion and action on that. Yep, it's here tonight.
Can you guys see my screen share? Is that working at all?
It worked earlier during the public hearings, but I minimized it and you should be able to. I'm just not seeing it.
No problem. I just thought I'd check. I like to put it up while the discussion is going on. I'll try it again.
No,
Yeah.
there we go.
Alright. We typically will start off with our engineer. I don't know if there's anything you want to add into right away.
I can wait.
Okay,
All right, so.
all right, go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, no problem. Just to summarize the proposal, to make sure there's clarity there, the applicant is, for this agenda item, is proposing an amendment to your comprehensive plan's recommended land use map to change this designation. Currently, it is planned for rural density and other agricultural lands. And this is again in your 2035 comprehensive plan. This is what it was mapped as back in, I believe, 2009. There are some areas that are mapped as other open lands to be preserved. I'm just pulling up a map here, so those of you who can see the screen can see what's in the meeting packet. So these areas that are shown in gray, that's the bulk of the site that's proposed for development. That's the area that's the rural designation. That would require a minimum 5-acre lot size. So without this map amendment, that's what the developer would be required to meet, would be a maximum density of 5 acres per lot. What they're proposing here would be a change of the land use map to change those areas to low density residential. And that would enable a lot size or density ranging from 20,000 square feet to 1.4 acres per dwelling unit. With their current concept that is also included in the packets, just so everybody's aware, the lots range, they're all more than 1 acre in size as far as what's currently envisioned and proposed there. And there's a range of a little bit of variety in the lots, but typically they go from about 1 acre to 1.5 acres in size. That's what this map amendment would, if this were approved at this agenda item, it would enable the developer to also then request a rezoning, and the town could, if they wanted to, approve a rezoning for this land But any rezoning has to be consistent with your land use map. And that's why they're here before you tonight requesting the land use map change to change it to a yellow designation that would actually match the subdivision to the west, the Lindale Farm Estates, I believe the name is. And that's the same designation as other lots to the east along Lindale Road. So that's the nature of this proposal. It's been mentioned a little bit earlier tonight, but they are proposing currently 31 lots in this development. And that concept plan is also in the packets. It would generally stay out of areas that are, there's also environmental corridor mapped on site. Those areas are not actually proposed to change. So just to be clear, they would only change the areas that are currently in your comprehensive plan for residential use. It's just that the density would be increased with their proposal. And the areas that are mapped as other open lands to be preserved in your comprehensive plan, that is was mapped that way based on available data for soil conditions in a general sense that there would be soils that may or may not be developable. They may be hydric. And so it's on landowners and developers to do soil testing to determine what is buildable and what's not, where the soils would actually support development. And so that area does not actually prohibit development, but it's just something that they have to go through in the course of planning a development and designing it to do those investigations and determine it. The land use map before you tonight is the staff memo that I prepared does go into looking at the various goals and objectives and policies that are in the comprehensive plan. That plan, I looked for things that might suggest any reason why you shouldn't approve the map amendment. There's a lot that your plan says. It's a very lengthy document. It's written, it's really written to frame the whole development plan for the county as a whole, because the county created that plan along with many local municipalities. So the language in the plan is tricky at times because it really refers to land use categories that are countywide and not necessarily specific to Lisbon, but it also applies in Lisbon. So it's, there's a lot there to digest, but I did focus on generally the high level goals, objectives, and policies. And I found that, several of those seem to be consistent with what they're proposing. Those are outlined as far as providing housing options, community character. That's very subjective, so I'm not trying to really weigh in one way or the other, but these are things that I think they're addressing that, for example, by staying out of environmental corridor. Since that's not part of the proposal, that fact is consistent with your long range plan, for example. Directing development away from steep slopes that are 12% or more in grade. That's another long range plan policy that the town has and that the county has. This concept plan, the developer has identified those areas and they're trying to keep development generally out of those areas. There are a couple of places where steep slopes would appear to be included in the residential lots. They'll have to work through that. They just can't be buildable. They should be maintained as open space, but the town's ordinances do allow some residential lots to contain slopes 10% or more. So there's, so far their concept does fit with what town plan and the ordinances would allow at this point. And it's, still to be fine tuned would be my understanding if they're allowed to go forward. There are just a few policies in the plan where I flagged those as like perhaps less consistent with something for the commission to consider tonight. That preservation of productive agricultural lands, that's in the comprehensive plan, certainly for countywide consideration, but there are no land use designations on your future land use map that suggest prime farmland preservation in this area. So for that reason, I said, well, yes, if it's farmland, but this is not classified as prime according to that the criteria I saw in the land use chapter. Another criteria, land developed to be for high, medium, and low density residential use should be served by sanitary sewer or public water supply. Well, as we know in Lisbon, there are a lot of residential lots of, larger size that are not served by sanitary sewer and water. So that really depends on the location, the availability of those utilities. There are other subdivisions that have been approved on well and septic, and as long as the soils are suitable for it and they go through the proper review and approvals for that can still work. The other is on-site sewage disposal. Should be in areas already committed to that use, like through subdivision plats or certified surveys. this parcel is not already subdivided, obviously, but it is within an area that's surrounded by subdivision development. So that's another one where it's kind of gray area, but I wanted to point that out in part just to, it's a chance to relook at your plan and the policies that are in there now, just so you're aware of those. And it's good to revisit those whenever a proposal like this is before you. And so it's really up to the town. When it comes to a map amendment like this, it's your prerogative as to whether or not you think it's, suitable to make this map amendment. If you do, it allows the developer to go ahead with their rezoning. If I missed anything or if you have other questions, I'm happy to address them.
Okay. Jim, you want to add? You can state your name also.
Sure. Tony Zanin, Pinnacle Engineering Group in Brookfield, Wisconsin. I'm here with the developer, Mike Garrett. Just there's a lot of questions that came up in the public hearing. I just wanted to jot as many as I could and just wanted to give the best, our response to each of them. I think Rachel did a good job of explaining what we're doing on this one. I know it's a comp plan tonight in the rezone. It's not really the plan itself, but we did do the plan to show you essentially what we're going to be asking for if everything goes in a positive direction, or at least, we're looking at the comp plan and the rezone. And we were talking about the two different subdivisions that I work on both of them. So I'll just kind of answer, some of the questions might have been for both of them, but real quick, generally there's 31 lots. The density is 2.87 acres per dwelling unit. Average lot size is 1.1 acres. It really lends itself to what is to the west of this. There's a number of subdivisions that lead. I do have a little bit, a map. I can just kind of hand this to you guys, or
Is that the one they already have?
I don't think so.
No.
This is just a map of an area that shows.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Basically what that plan shows is just the kind of to the west. You can kind of see the lot sizes. The red lots are the lots that we're proposing. To the west of there, you can kind of see it's the same type of development. You can see by the size of the lots that even the development to the west of us is a little bit smaller lots. I think Rachel put in her report, it was 0.7 acre lots. So they are 3/4 acre lots in that subdivision. You can kind of see it, but kind of consistent with what's happening from Young Bluth Road all the way over to the east. There's open space on every one of those developments to kind of protect the corridor along Cocoa Creek. We're going to also continue to do that. And on this site, we're not disturbing any secondary and corridor. We're not disturbing any wetland that are associated with the creek. And we are not disturbing on the Waukesha County GIS. There's a floodplain designation. It's not actually FEMA, but it's what they call an other regulatory agency floodplain. We're staying outside of that. So all the corridor areas we are not going to impact. There was a question about the 4 lots 20 through 23 up on the north end in the Waukesha County shoreland, that they should be 5 acres. Actually, the county shoreland, the upland on this property in the county shoreland, they have zoned as R2. So if we're asking for R2 at the town level, we're not asking for a rezone at Waukesha County because they already have it as R2. So those lots are 1 acre lots. So we meet the county zoning on those lots. Excuse me. There was some discussion about the different plans. We first submitted a plan in November, and we aligned it with the road on the east side of our property along Lindale. As part of our submittal to the county, they do a development review team. The DPW went out to the site right before Thanksgiving, called us and said, you know what, that access isn't going to work there. You have to move it to the west. So that's where we are today, is at an access point that the county has indicated that's where it needs to be if you're going to get access to Lindale. So that was the reason. Since we had submitted to the county and the town, everybody got the first draft of the plan. Internally, once I heard from the county and they said you had to move the road, I revised the plan to show Mr. Carrick that, hey, it still works and this is how it works. So there's a little confusion. We wanted to get all the comments from everybody, so everybody was commenting on the first plan, but there is the second plan with the correct road location. I think, the wetland has been delineated. There's a lot of talk of soils and hydric soils. Hydric soils plays a role in potential wetland. We have had the wetland delineated on site. We will have septic tests done and seasonal high groundwater determinations done in every lot. I know the town requires all basements to be 18 inches above the seasonal high groundwater table. So we'll get a groundwater elevation on each lot and be sure that the basements are 18 inches above those. To Rachel's point, we had requested in the comp plan for low density residential, and it is no longer on the screen, but really that was, I proposed that because that's what's to the west and to the southeast. I think in Rachel's report, she said, actually you fit the suburban residential category, which is a less dense category. So I think her recommendation for us to go suburban, we don't have a problem with that. I was just trying to stay consistent with the zoning and the land use in the neighboring properties. Finally, as far as drainage, I think the other one probably has a few more drainage questions, because in this case, most of the drainage comes from the southeast through our property to the wetland. Everything's trying to drain down to the creek. So for the most part, we're taking our property and some additional land to the southeast that's off of our property that comes into our property. We'll address that in our stormwater management plan. I think that was all the questions. I don't know if the commission has any other ones.
Questions from the board? Chad?
I'm good.
Ed?
I'm good at this time.
Brian?
I'm good too.
Becky? Mark?
Yeah, I just had a question in Mr. Clark's letter. He said that the county has delineated that as prime farmland, and the packet says that it's not, and I'm wondering which one is right.
Rachel, do you want to answer that, or should I?
I wish I could answer it. I just got the letter kind of before the meeting, and I didn't have a chance to look at where that was coming from, where in the plan that lies.
The county comp plan has different categories. In this case, it's rural density and other ag lands and other lands to be preserved. They do have a prime ag designation where it's 35 acres or greater. This is not. It is not designated on this property. This property is designated as Rachel described.
Yeah, I remember seeing in the plan that there's like a handful of criteria for what constitutes prime ag land. I did see that in the plan, and it didn't seem like that was applicable to the site. So that's why the staff report stated that, in addition to the categories that Tony is referring to, those weren't present on the site, so I didn't think that applied.
There is another question I had that came out of Mr. Clark's letter, and that is that he was concerned about spot zoning for his lot being A3, basically trapped in between now R2 or potentially R2 and suburban 1. Is that a problem for him going forward?
I don't imagine it would be a problem. This is Rachel. I think it's just an existing zoning situation. I mean, spot zoning is more of a concern if someone's bringing forward a proposal for zoning that really is a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't fit with the surrounding lands, but if he's currently A3, there's no issue with him remaining A3, you know, that property staying A3. And I think it's, you know, most appropriate in this kind of situation to focus on what's proposed, and then, you know, would that be consistent? Would it generally be a fit with the area, with the town's vision and your long range plan? I don't see a concern with regard to that particular zoning on the neighbor's property.
Okay, and then I guess I think my last question was those lots 5 and 6 that are down on the far south end of the property. Those meet the percentage for steep slopes, basically in the ordinance. I think you said that, but I don't remember for sure.
They definitely do. You have a certain percentage that each lot can be 12%. And I've specifically looked at lots 5, 6, and 7 and 8 on the other side of the proposed entrance road. So yes, they do meet your code.
Thank you.
To speak to that spot zoning a little bit more too. The main time you see, like Rachel said, the main time you see a spot zoning issue is if you plop an industrial center right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. I guess A10 is kind of the universal one that you'll see in a lot of different areas, is because most things started off as farms. So when you're starting to build things out, you have a lot of A10 and you might have some industrial commercial around it. But being it's all residential around here, I cannot see where that would be any kind of spot zoning issue at this time or any point in the future. Were you done, Mark? I don't want to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, I have a couple of comments, but it might, I guess I'll just make them real quick because I know it was mentioned a few times in the public hearing, and really the value of these, of the development is not a consideration. You know, I mean, how much, you know, the property value may change or not is not one of the factors that we consider when we're doing this. It came up a couple of times during the hearing, so I wanted to get that out there. And it seems like, from what I heard during the hearing too, we had two concerns. One is real high water, and one is what's going to happen to my well. And I suppose you could have a shallow well that gets affected if this development is approved. But it seems like that the well issue is, unless somebody has some evidence to the contrary, it doesn't seem like it's something that's weighing heavily on my decision. And I guess I did have one other thing I want to say. I would be in favor of the suburban one rather than the R2. And when I looked at the, you know, some of the maps around there, I think it's South Willow Creek or something, if that's the right road that I'm thinking of. There is a dead end built into that road that kind of signals to me that there was always an intention of building a subdivision out farther to the east there, even though that land is currently zoned A10. Yeah.
This might be one of the only times I might disagree. So this used to be a racetrack.
Okay.
That is actually the overshoot from the turn.
Oh, okay. Then I misinterpreted that. Disregard.
Okay.
Um,
So it's not a public right of
It
way.
will be, I mean, it's a good place to put a road there, don't get me wrong, but just the intent on this one might not have been that, because it actually, you'll see in different parcels of that of Glendale Farm that you actually see some concrete still there from the old racetrack of the parts that weren't actually used as roads, but the only time I ever got to clarify that ever in the history of Lansing.
But I believe it is platted right away from what the county records show.
Okay.
But not a constructed road, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's just a remnant of the old track,
Okay.
but it is right away there, so it wasn't envisioned in going through, but yeah. Go ahead, Mark, sorry.
Yep, nope, that was it. I just wanted to make sure I got everything that was in the letter and that was covered that I had a note of.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
In this plat and in this plan, the developer obviously faces quite a dilemma in that even though you have a 90-acre, I believe it's 90-acre parcel, you're really boxed in, especially to your northeast and to your north, with the county zoning, as it should be, because it's wetlands. You've got the creek to the north. As far as this plat is showing us, and I don't know if this is set in stone, and I don't know if this is appropriate question to ask, but, and I see there's two entrances, the one that's on JK and the one that goes into Lindale Farms, you were just discussing, Mr. Chairman. Would there be any feasibility or possibility, given the economies of developing subdivisions and lot prices and home prices in this day and age of considering possibility of a conservancy subdivision.
We looked at the conservancy subdivision and the density for that doesn't make it feasible to do.
To
this
develop.
development.
Okay, all right.
I would, you started with a good point of the restrictions. I know I started with, hey, we're preserving the secondary corridor. We're preserving, in essence, out of the 90 acres, 55% of the acres are going to be left as open space. So that was a lot of, and I know, you know, it's corridor, so we really wouldn't be able to go. I mean, you get density of 1.5 and you could do something in there, but we really strove to stay out of that.
Well, based on the aerial you gave us and the material we have in front of us, the lots as platted are compatible, if not in some cases a little bit larger than some existing properties or subdivisions that we're looking at. The eloquently as was presented from the gentleman. First name again, sir, I'm sorry. Doug, sorry, you said it twice. In your letter, which was extremely comprehensive, and as Mark pointed out, there's always a question of how will a new subdivision affect my property in cases of water runoff. This land, very contorted, a lot of slopes, heavy slopes here. But so I would be most concerned with the homes that are on JK that abut up to, that would be your southeast corner of your proposed subdivision. I don't know about the properties that abut Lindale. That subdivision.
I've got a drainage exhibit. So this is
Okay,
just,
I don't know if we had one of those
Nope,
maps
you
in our
didn't, yeah.
packet.
so this was just trying to. The question of drainage comes up quite a bit.
Of course.
Rachel, can you bring that up? I think I emailed that to you.
Yes, I'm just doing that right now. Thank you. I made some new
So this
maps.
one
and
is-
there's others.
I apologize, there's a number of lines on here, but the red, the purple lines are more or less the existing drainage pattern with the yellow dash lines and the arrows showing the direction of flow.
Okay, I was going to ask that. So the triangles are on, okay.
Yeah, so as you can see, you know, when I earlier mentioned a lot of the drainage from our site is on our site and drains to the northwest. Mr. Clark's property and his two properties to the east of his also drain onto our site, which we'll have to handle and deal with to take it from his property line through our site to that large wetland complex. The blue dash line, which is the smallest line in there, is just my interpretation of what the proposed drainage areas will be. So in this case, again, the next one you'll see a bigger difference in these lines, but in this one, because everything goes to the northwest, it's going to continue to go to the northwest.
Okay, there is no proposals on the plat for settlement ponds. I don't know if they're needed.
Sure.
Yeah, our stormwater
Or are
ponds
they?
will be behind to the west of,
Okay,
conceptually,
sorry.
it's to the west of lot 23.
Yeah,
north
now,
31. No problem, no problem.
okay.
And again, we'll
Focus.
be doing all our soil testing that and the stormwater permits through Waukesha County.
All right.
I mean, this is not including the subdivision. Right.
I understood. And I know
It's
the
a
main,
tough thing. It's like you want to understand what you're.
yeah,
you're
I'm
looking
trying
at,
to be
so
careful,
I don't
Mr.
want to get
Chairman.
too technical.
I know I tend to drift.
Some of the stuff they might not have all done already.
Yeah, and I know,
They got quite a bit.
yeah, obviously we're talking about a rezone or looking at changing from one to another, and I shouldn't get too specific with what's being proposed. Final comment to citizens this evening that offered some very definitely responsible concerns. As a citizen of the town of Lisbon for quite a few decades, I live on Lake 5 Road. And if anyone is familiar with that area of the town of Lisbon, speaking of problems on JK, which I am not that, well, honestly, I drove in the area the other day just to familiarize myself with this plan. And Lake 5 Road has, if anything, and one of the callers tonight on the Zoom mentioned the intersection of VV and Lake 5. Lake 5 Road has become a major corridor for commuters coming out of multiple subdivisions, which Planning Commission has approved. People, if people sell land, people build homes, which they deservedly should be able to do. So I'll stop. Hold on.
I was going through Clark's letter as we were going on here, trying to
Yeah.
identify that we're hitting as many of the
Hitting
points
those
as we
points.
can. One of the things that we will not have to address in there is the talk of the PUD, because this is not a PUD subdivision, planning and development. That was what, as far as conservancy subdivision would be, when you're requesting for less than 1 acre and we allow them to go down. Linwood, or Lindale, excuse me, would in today's standards be considered a PUD, because they're actually, the lots are under 1 acre. So these subdivisions, these lots are actually larger. Not all of the lots over there are less than 1 acre, but there are a majority of them that seems odd. So this actually is a less dense subdivision than what it was. Address the spot zoning. A lot of the, as far as the septic systems and such, that's a Waukesha County issue. The developer absorbs all that risk. If he does this, does all this work, spends all this money figuring this out, nothing perks, he can't do mounds, that is on him, and he understands that. Done it many times. Water runoff obviously is an issue. I've said this in a lot of different discussions with subdivisions. Communities used to be really, really bad at it. They are now really, really good at it because they were bad at it and lawsuits came out. So it is advantageous for communities to be very good at stormwater now. And I have to say, it's something we had issues with. There's a few areas in the town, I would say, we're not done correctly, but everything that has come before this board, at least in the last 10 to 12 years, I would say has been very responsible in that aspect. The road with Waukesha County, I would love to get Waukesha County to fix a lot of the roads that they have in the community. I really would. Having the town of Lisbon send letters requesting to have these roads done does not work. We have tried. I mean, we have tried. There was absolutely no promise that Lake 5 and Silver Spring, that was brought up. I know it's more to the other side, that was going to be done when Barnum went in. We could never make that promise. We did send letters, we requested things. I actually went to some of their meetings, talked to some of their board supervisors, and they just deemed that that road doesn't need any more control than it has. And there's nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. I do believe 55 miles an hour on this road is ridiculous. I don't drive 55 miles an hour on that road. I think kids do, maybe some people who are in a hurry, but I agree. And I think I would sign a letter going to Waukesha County stating that that road speed limit should be lowered. Absolutely, it would. Trying to think if there's anything else we got to hit here. We addressed the primary and secondary environmental corridor. You addressed the being in the shoreline district. The water table. I think as far as I agree with talking with Mark here, or hearing Mark's comments, I mean, water here is more of a issue of having too much water than not enough. I did hear that some of the wells are less than 100 feet. I mean, to me, that's concerning just in general, because shallow wells have never been a real positive thing in any area around here, especially if it was. It's actually, if it was going to remain farmland, that would be more of a risk for people with shallow wells and subdivision is going in actually. But we've had some issues on the other side of town with shallow wells also, but I don't believe these homes are going to cause any adverse effects to that. In fact, if it isn't going to be farmland, it might actually help them. Did I miss anything from anyone here?
Mr. Chairman, I would just want to add, and I appreciate others for bringing this up, and I apologize that I did not mention this in my summary, but it's right that I do recommend a different land use designation for this. But there are two resolutions, so that if you wanted to make an approval tonight for a comprehensive plan amendment of any kind, the action would have to be taken by, the approval by Plan Commission would be done by resolution, and then by town board, it has to be done by ordinance. So in your packets, you see two different resolutions for your consideration, depending on if you wanted to advance one of those tonight. One would be One is written for the low density residential category that the applicant initially proposed. The other one is for the suburban 1 density residential. And that, because that category, that density they're proposing, I have at about 2.9 acres per unit. That's right at the top end of what the suburban 1 category would allow. The low density residential actually allows, in theory, smaller lots and a higher density. So my recommendation would be, if you go forward with this, to maybe go with the suburban 1 density. I also have some maps that I apologize could not be in the packet, but I did share them separately.
Sure.
And I'll put these on the screen here.
Is to go to low density residential. Can we do that? We could go to suburban.
Yeah, you have the ability to approve whichever category you see fit, if you see fit to make a change to your land use map. So right here I have the suburban density residential, which, as others have pointed out, would be less dense than the existing lots that are on either side, but it's still consistent with the concept that the developer is proposing. So there are 2 maps included here that could be attached to the resolutions. We created those just to have it as exhibits, depending on which way you'd want to go.
What is the applicant requesting?
They're requesting the low density residential,
We're
which
requesting
is,
low density residential in tune with the zoning class of R2. So even though the low density would allow for more lots, we're really going to be, our hands are tied on the zoning category. So
yeah,
I guess if you, to stay consistent with what's in the area, again, to the west, to the southeast, that's all low density residential. So we're proposing to just kind of have this whole area be the same, but then we're asking for the zoning class that dictates the lot size.
So as far as that argument goes, Rachel, as far as keeping it consistent, I mean, the county likes to see consistency, but I guess is it just our call on this, or is there a recommendation on that?
that's a good question. I have seen, I don't want to get into the other agenda item before us tonight, but in the past, I've seen the county staff recommend, I think they typically want to see something that isn't approving more than what is being asked for. So my sense from other conversations with them is that they would be probably more in favor of the suburban 1 density, just because it wouldn't allow more than what's proposed before you. You know, it's kind of like, even though it's hypothetical, it would be granting more density or the ability to zone something more dense than what's actually being considered here. But Tony makes the point too that, you know, your zoning classifications in Lisbon, the R1, R2 district, they're proposing the R2 that sets a minimum lot size of 1 acre. So I don't know that your land use map would, you know, change that much, but it's kind of it's not a perfect science, but it's a more, you have some discretion there. I think that's a little more suitable. And it doesn't really matter if your future land use categories don't exactly match what's adjacent. I think with zoning, that's a little more important. So you kind of avoid that spot zoning thing, but I've never heard of a spot land use map problem. I don't think that such a thing really exists, although, you know, general compatibility is obviously an important factor. The land's just to the south across JK. I realize that's in a different community, but that is shows on the land use map as the suburban 1. So there is some land adjacent that is in either category.
Just for clarification, it was public noticed as low density residential. If they change it, does that have any impact to the public hearings we just went through?
It does not.
Okay.
Because it's increasing the size, allowing it less. If we did it the opposite way, I think that would be a problem. But I think because it was noticed at a more dense district than what would be considered now, that would be fine.
Mark, did you hear that?
Barely, but yeah, I'm good.
No, you say you took the words out of no, so long as it's consistent with,
Can you repeat that, Mike, just so Mark can hear?
yes, it's so long as it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and you're decreasing it, it will remain that way. So yes, they could be, though it was noticed differently, this could take place.
Okay. So will the board, Chad,
I'm fine with it.
Suburban?
Yep.
Ed,
I'm fine with it, and it's substitute for low density residential, is what we're saying.
Right.
So we're substituting, okay.
it sounds worse, but it's actually less.
Well, if it's accurate, yes. I'm
Right.
okay with
I'm
it.
good with it.
Becky? Mark?
I'm fine.
Okay. Any other thoughts or discussions on this?
Nope.
So this is gonna have to be recommended to the board and Waukesha County as part of the motion? Is that correct?
Just to the board. The board's obligation here is,
Or just the town board?
yeah,
I know we need to make that part of the motion.
We are going to Waukesha County for a comp plan amendment also. They do for their shoreline area.
Okay, so there's no part of this, any motion that's made that has to go to Waukesha County, right?
No, the included in your packets is the resolution, and I think if you made a motion to approve, one of those resolutions, that would satisfy that, if staff agrees.
correct, yeah. Just a motion to approve the amendment to the land use plan and recommendation to the town board of the same. That will be sufficient to then sign the resolution is the only other obligation for the planning commission.
All right.
I would move that the request by JKNN Lindale LLC for amendment to the land use plan map from rural density and other agricultural land, other open lands to be preserved, and SEC/secondary environmental corridor to change of low density residential.
I lost audio if he's still talking.
Oh, I think town hall froze. Or they're very good at staying still.
It's good when it works.
Happens when the motion happens. Are there just 4 of us left? Is that right? Oh. Well, it's not a complete failure. Something's still going on.
I don't know how town hall disappeared off of my list, actually.
Yeah, mine too. I see Lisa, I see you there, and Anthony Slick and Mark, that's it.
I can see about 8 people, but I'm not sure how I'm doing that if town hall, as the meeting organizer, is no longer present. I don't know.
Yeah, usually the meeting just drops if that happens. Elisa mentioned an issue with maybe new laptops and some cords or something, so she was hoping the internet would hold out for the meeting. Oh, and she made me a co-host. Maybe that's why. Maybe that. I wonder if we should log out of this and try again, or if this will pose a problem. Maybe they can just get back in. Sorry, I'm still learning the Zoom stuff. I don't usually host,
Yeah.
so. Send a message to staff.
Yeah, I sent one to Joe.
Okay.
Was his motion going to be for suburban 1 or for?
He started saying low density, but I think he was just reading the agenda item because that's usually how you guys make motions. But then I thought they were pausing to discuss and go, wait, what's the motion? But
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those scenarios, I think, where the town hall should get a PC and have a permanent station set up there instead of carting in laptops and taking them away. But I don't have,
sometimes.
I don't have to pay for the whole bundle, so. Well, they'll notice we're gone one of these days.
Maybe, eh? I'm still seeing a list of 15 people, so. But they don't appear on the side window where I see,
Right.
your pictures. Yeah, I'm still just waiting for word from town hall. I don't want to close the meeting on this end if it'll drop people.
Right. Who knew we'd all have to be Zoom experts?
Uncharted territory.
I was talking to Lisa before the meeting. Definitely positives and negatives from this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. I'm not near a window. I don't know are you guys getting any snow over there tonight?
It was drizzling a little before. I don't know if, I don't know what it's doing now. I could go check. And my keyboard's not making too much noise, is it?
No, I haven't noticed it.
Oh, because I muted my audio, but then I couldn't unmute when I wanted to talk. I had to ask to get unmuted.
Oh, yeah. Gets a little clunky.
How much of that did you hear, Mark?
Right now, I just started hearing you again.
Ah.
At about 3 syllables into Ed's motion is when I lost everything.
All right, so we had Ed's motion, we seconded Ed's motion, and then we voted Ed's motion down.
Yeah.
It was,
Severe personal failure.
so we have the resolutions in the packet. And I anticipated, so that Ed's motion was voted down 5-0 because Mark wasn't on there.
Was his motion for the low density residential, like the agenda item states?
Well, we didn't use the resolution, we just kind of made our own motion.
Ah,
Now we're gonna use the resolution because
thank you.
never done a resolution up on the plan commission to my knowledge in all the years I've been here. So we're gonna do the resolution here. So if somebody would make a motion to approve resolution 2021-01, noting that we'd be using the suburban 1 density resolution.
So move.
All right, right, so the motion is to approve resolution 2021-01
Mhm.
using the suburban one density. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
All right, does the motion also recommendation of the town board?
Yes.
We need to do that part. So the second, okay.
Yeah,
with
we
that?
wouldn't leave the
Yes.
town board
All
out,
right.
no.
All right, so the motion is to approve resolution 2021-01 and recommend to the town board of the same for suburban one density. Any other discussion on this matter?
Do we have to include any engineer comments or any comments from the planner or?
No, I wouldn't think so for this one.
Okay.
Just up or down.
Yep, just the resolution.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
And there it is.
Item B is discussion action for Mike Carrick Right-Way Bus LLC for approval of amendment to land use plan map for North 95 West 23759 County Line Road, LSPT 0150.997, from rural density and other agricultural land and other open lands to be preserved to low density residential. All right, Rachel.
All right, this one, I'm trying to pull up the right page of the packet here. So on this proposal, to summarize, they are working with a site that's about 42 acres, 41 acres, 42. They're proposing to develop about 41 acres of it. This item, similar to the last one, it's just for the land use plan map amendment, that this would enable them to rezone the land to a category that would allow something more dense than 5 acres per dwelling unit, which is currently what the land use map would limit the site to. On this one, let's see, I've got a few points to mention, but we're dealing with the same land use categories, thankfully. So the discussion is very similar to our last agenda item. So what was initially proposed is changing this to, so you can see on the map here, the white area is the rural density and other agricultural lands. That's your 5 to 35 acres per dwelling unit. And there are some other areas on here that are mapped as other open lands to be preserved. Again, that's a sign that they need to do more soil testing and verify what's actually buildable in those areas. That's typically done as part of a project as it moves ahead. And we have, in the packets, I included just the maps from the developer on this one. In this area too, up in the, this is the zoning, excuse me. A corner of the site up here in the northwest is wetland, and that is, let me close a couple files here. Oh yeah, so this would propose the whole site be made low density residential. This would match the subdivision, in this case, over to the east, which is the Presidential Estates. They are proposing similarly here, lots around 1 acre in size, some more. And I'm just checking the range on these ones. Yeah, ranging actually 1 acre to 2 acres is what's proposed in concept at this time. And that's very similar to kind of what's in the area here. This would be, I did a similar treatment where I looked at the high level goals, objectives, policies in your plan. It seemed more clear cut here that they're avoiding, well, they're avoiding in the last one, but avoiding the steep slopes, 12% grade or more. Another goal that would be met by this one is providing outdoor recreation facilities, because the concept plan does include a small tot lot or play lot area within the project that would be, something that accessible to residents in the area here. Same thing, I didn't see any prime farmland preservation concerns on this one, at least not in the town's plan. The more specific objectives that are in your plan, like wetlands, the specific treatment of them, stormwater management, soil suitability, all of that does get dealt with typically a little later in a project. And if it's, if the developer can figure out how to manage those and meet the standards and the requirements that apply, then they'll figure that out at that time. And if it for some reason doesn't work out, then the project, might not proceed, but those are typically things that are dealt with later. Same thing on this one as well. You should have in your packets at least some updated materials where you have 2 resolutions for you to consider. One would be for the low density residential, the other would be for suburban density residential. They are proposing in this project, so the concept plan shows about 2.2 acres per dwelling unit proposed. And the suburban 1 category allows a range from 1.5 to 2.9 acres. So they're right in the middle of that range for that long range category. The low density residential, again, is smaller lots down to 20,000 square feet to 1.4 acres. That can include, and when these densities we're talking about, it accounts for the whole development as a whole, including the outlots. You factor in the whole acreage of the parcel, but in my opinion, there would be a better fit to go with the suburban 1 density, even though it doesn't match exactly what's next door, but it again would be, it would match what's proposed, but it wouldn't give them a higher density allowance for rezoning. And you can see later on the agenda, they are proposing R2 zoning also for this project. So it would be similar, and that would have set a minimum of 1 acre for the residential lots. I think those are the only points I wanted to touch on for the land use map amendment. And I can pull up the resolutions here in a moment.
Good, Rachel?
Yeah, sorry, that's it for me.
Hi again, Tony Zanin from Pinnacle Engineering, again representing Mike Carrick, who's the developer here. Same kind of process. I just try to jot down some responses. In this case, as Rachel had said, we're at 19 lots, 2.2 acres per dwelling unit for density. Average lot size is 1.1 acre. This is a project, actually this site, a year or so ago, I worked for another developer who came in with a much more dense development on this, and it just didn't receive any positive feedback, really. Mike took a different approach, I think, lessen the density, had 2 public meetings with the neighbors to try to get feedback from them. So our site plan is kind of pushed and pulled and evolved to this 19 lot site plan from, I think, the other developers in the high 20s, almost 30 lots. So we've cut the density down. With that, we have approximately 40%, just under 40% of the site will remain in outlots. We are not, there's primary environmental corridor in the northwest corner that's associated with the Park River. We're not touching that area. We're leaving the corridor alone. We tried to, again, if you don't mind, hand a little drainage map that I put together for this one. In this case, again, the red lines are drainage areas. There's a lot more drainage basins on this property than the last one we talked about. There's actually 3 internally kettles within the property, more on the west side of the site. We're going to continue those to remain in the outlots. We're going to expand those and use those towards our stormwater management. What you see is what we've done design wise. Again, the comp plan and the rezone is the first step. But one of the comments I think the gentleman that had written a letter to the Plan Commission. He lives to the east, and his question was, what's the impact to my property? So if you can kind of focus in on the east side, you can see there's really 1, 2, 3, 4 yellow areas, arrows pointing to show what drains to the east. Specifically, the largest drainage area is kind of in that area of lot 7, 8, 11, and 15. Within that, you can see a superimposed blue line, which is really my assumed proposed drainage. Typically, the front of the lots will drain towards the roadside ditch. In this case, we're going to probably take that area and cut it in half. So it's simple drainage area flowing to the east is going to be reduced under this plan. You know, the point discharge, I think somebody had talked about point discharges. The drainage is still going to drain. I can't change the elevation, what it is at the property line. So the point of the existing drainage is going to remain. We're just going to reduce the amount of drainage to that eastern property and address it in the outlot on the west side of our site. Again, Rachel, you know, we had proposed low density residential, which matches the adjacent property. We don't have an issue with the suburban. Again, we're not as dense as what low density provides. Where the last subdivision, the county didn't need to do a rezone because they were already R2. In this case, the county shoreline area is low density residential, so there's no comp plan amendment for the county. So it's a little bit, the town and the county don't have a lot of the same existing base. So in this case, I'll go to the county for a rezone, but I won't go to the county for a comp plan amendment because the shoreline is already in low density residential. I think actually that's, I don't know that there was as many questions on this one at this point. I think Mike has done a good job trying to talk with the neighbors and just address as many concerns as he could. And so I don't know if there's anyone that has any other questions for us.
Well, you had done a good job with those meetings because the room was not packed. Which I did anticipate. Like,
Just a real small thing. We did meet with both people and we did change things around, especially on the North Road project. Another, probably a small concern of the people in Lindell Farms, we were gonna call it Lindell Farms Preserve. And it was requested we change the name, so that's why we've changed the name from the original submittal.
Okay.
So, thank you very much.
Thanks. Questions from the board? Chad?
Not unless it moves forward, but I have no questions on this specifically.
Ed?
Rachel mentioned a tot lot. Within,
It's on that old lot right here. But again, that's gonna go on the development one that, yeah, right here.
okay. Why am I not seeing this? Okay.
That was something Kathy asked me to if we could do, and I said, we certainly have enough outlots in there to put a tot lot. So we also have one in the other subdivision too. And we also are, we already have the plat done for the Haas Farms, but we have a spot that we can make a tot lot in Haas Farms also.
Okay.
Would there, if I may ask, would there be an HOA that governs the tot lot? I assume the tot
Yeah.
lot is just for the subdivision, not for surrounding
Correct.
others. Okay,
And there will be HOA for every subdivision
okay,
because they have to maintain this stormwater and all that type of thing.
all right. The reason I'm asking you because in our long range plan for the parks, we are trying to find tot lots or smaller parcels to the north in the town. But
This is a
that's a different
this is
topic.
definitely a very small tot lot.
Yes.
Just the people around here.
Sure. Thank you.
Right?
No question anymore.
You got it?
I'm done.
Becky? Mark?
I just have one question. There's four very small, four very small areas labeled C1 on the northwest side of this. Looks like they're those two kettles you were talking about earlier. Are those remaining C1 or are those being changed as well?
We're proposing to change those. Those are those existing kettles. It's only wetland because they're existing kettles that are have significant depth to them and that it doesn't drain. But our idea is to submit for a DNR permit for an artificial wetland exemption and to expand that whole kettle to make one large kettle for our stormwater management. So where we're preserving the wetland that's associated with the Bark River in the northwest corner, those two dimples in the middle of the site, we want to expand those two kettles to make one large stormwater, essentially one large stormwater kettle.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Mark?
Nope, that's it. I'm sorry.
So we have two resolutions also on this one. Yes. And you guys are okay with going suburban on this one also?
Yes.
And that'll match up with Waukesha County just fine. Mark, you're good with it?
Yep.
Chad's good? Ed?
Yes.
Brian?
Yep.
Becky? All right. Anything else from staff?
Nope.
Anyone wish to make a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve this in reference to resolution 2021-02. To suburban one density residential.
And recommend to the town board.
And recommend to the town board.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, seconded by Ed. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Item C. Discussion action from Mike Carrick, KKNN Lindale LLC for approval of the rezoning of approximately 47 acres of land at North 48 West 27368 Lindale Road, LSPT 0268.999 from A10 agricultural to R2 residential. Rachel?
All right, I'm just switching back and forth between my packets, trying to keep the papers organized here. Yeah, so this one, and sorry, my screen share keeps popping off. It's not me. It's got a mind of its own here. I'm just pulling up the map here. We've discussed this one already as far as what's proposed. This would be rezoning the lands, only the ones outside of county jurisdiction. If I have that, unless I'm confusing the two projects, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, it's R2 currently, no, it's proposed. I'm sorry. I'm still with you. Okay. Be proposing to rezone from AD 10, which would currently require a 10-acre lot size, and the C1 is proposed to remain. So they would change from the AD 10 to R2 zoning that would match the subdivision just to the west. And the C1 lands, the conservancy would all remain the same as part of their proposal. So they're not proposing to change that zoning. And that would allow the lot sizes with a minimum of 1 acre. And that's really the gist of it for the rezoning. So you just approve the comprehensive plan land use map. So if you wanted to approve the rezoning, it would be consistent with what you just approved for your land use map. And when it goes to town board, it would be the same thing. Just make sure that they're ordered appropriately on the agenda so that one item would follow the other. And if you want clarification or any other exhibits here, I'd be happy to put those up.
Questions from the board? Anything, Chad?
No.
Ed?
No.
Brian? Becky? No. Mark?
No.
So I did not bring it with me, but I had the old code that we had, and I do believe the future land use of this parcel and the one off on Q was R2 in our pre-2009 plan. Somebody had asked the question too and talked about us going against our zoning. So another question was, why was some of this property changed to the A10 zoning? Back in 09, when we did the plan, we redid our comp plan. I'm not gonna say we were overly great at it, but we were working with the county on a lot of things. And instead of actually planning for the future, it ended up getting changed to what it was. That's what it was. That is the answer. That is what happened. They just changed it to what was currently the land use. There was no future planning being done. I would say our pre-09 plan actually had better future planning than our 2009 plan ended up having. That is part of being a town and part of being under county jurisdiction on some of this stuff. You don't get to necessarily decide what you want. So that is what happened there. So actually, these parcels were originally future land use in R2 style density. So, any other questions or comments on this? Someone ready to make a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning of approximately 47 acres of land at N48 W27368 Lindale Road, LSBT 0268-999 for Mike Carrick, KKNN Lindale LLC, from A10 agricultural to R2 residential, and recommend the same to the town board.
And can I ask you to remove the address? In that motion, the county added the neighbor's address to this parcel.
Oh,
okay.
So let's choose the tax key. You okay with that for the motion, Becky?
Yeah.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ed. So this address that's in here is not the correct.
No, it's the correct tax key, but they added the neighbor's address.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded, made by Becky, seconded by Ed, correct?
Correct.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Item D is for Mike, discussion action for Mike Herrick and Right Way Bus LLC for approval of the rezoning of approximately 42 acres of land at N95 West 23759 County Line Road, LSBT 0150.997, A10 agricultural, C1 conservancy to R2 single family residential.
It was this address. Don't put this address in your motion. Okay.
Okay. All right, Rachel?
Yes, so on this property here, the proposal would affect about, I guess we have about 42 acres here listed. The current zoning again here is A10. This is different from the other property as far as the current zoning. The applicant already addressed what the intent here is for the current areas that are zoned C1. So those would be also rezoned, but dealt with as part of the development in terms of their stormwater management and so on. So the reason those are zoned C1 is because of the site conditions as they stand now. Proposed zoning here, this shows the R2. This would match zoning to the east. And so it would be at least consistent with some of what's surrounding it. And the county areas are not proposed for rezoning. And to clarify also on this, normally the town would hold a joint public hearing with the county in cases where zoning in the county would change, but here the county had said that if there's no buildable lot proposed within the rezoned area, they didn't need to be part of a joint hearing. And so that's why you're seeing it just at the Town Plan Commission tonight. This one, I should mention, I didn't do this for the last one, my apologies. This would also have extraterritorial jurisdiction with Village of Richfield. The applicants are aware of that, so they would need to be reaching out to them. I don't know if they have done that already or not, as far as getting review of the proposed rezoning. That would also apply when they submit for a plat. That's all I have on that for now, unless you have questions for me.
Questions from the board?
I have nothing.
I'm okay.
Mark,
Nothing further.
anything else from staff? Does anyone have a motion for this item?
I'll make a motion. I think it's my turn.
It is.
I move to approve the request of Mike Herrick, Right Way Bus Company LLC to rezone the approximate 14 acres of
42.
land,
42.
I'm sorry, 42 acres on County Line Road, tax key number 0150.997 from A10 agricultural and C1 conservancy to R2 single family residential, and recommend to the town board the same. How's that?
Is there a second?
Second, should you add engineering
We have to go to the town
comments?
board.
He said, yeah, he said that, didn't he?
We do it in the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we add engineer comments, Mr. Chairman?
You want it part of your motion?
No. I can,
No.
just in
No
just
need,
in
yeah,
case.
There's no need.
No need?
No,
No. Seriously, reason.
Okay, just to make sure.
Okay, any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mark, did you vote?
I said aye.
I didn't hear you, sorry. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right, move on to item E, which is for Joel Pemberton and John Fenn for
Thanks,
approval of
guys.
amended site plan and plan of operation for Joe's Car Care at West 230 North 95.
Oh, yes.
Colgate
Good night.
Road,
Thank you.
tax LSP. And that's 002. The applicant's here. Rachel,
yes, if you give me a moment, I'm just pulling this up so I can get it on the screen. Lost track of where we're at in the packet. I apologize here. All right, we've got, you don't need to see my memo. Let's get to the maps. All right. We've got this property on Colgate Road. This is just south of County Highway Q, County Line Road. The applicant, John Than, Space for You, is the owner. The occupant of the site is Joe's Car Care. That's Joel Pemberton and his business. You can see in the aerial here, this is the building in question and the site. And this is an operation that has previously been approved. So you have already approved a site plan of operation for this in the past. The reason the applicants are here tonight is they're proposing to get approval for outdoor storage for up to 6 vehicles. And these would be located behind the building. You can actually see in the aerial photo some vehicles on the site. And the staff memo outlines just kind of summarizes the nature of the operation, the existing zoning, which is largely B3. In the rear of the site, there's some upland corridor and also some C1 conservancy zoning. So the operation is proposed, I believe, it should be entirely within the B3 zoned area, not within the other areas. I would point out here, so what's proposed is allowable in the B3 district. It does allow for outdoor storage. Sorry, I'm just looking for where in the code we're looking at here. So currently their site plan of operation that's on file did not allow for outdoor storage. And the site was required to be cleaned up prior to occupancy in 2019 when you approved a site plan at that time. But the district does allow for outdoor storage and display. However, they'd have to be screened from view of streets and adjacent properties. That's the same also for dumpster enclosures. I didn't verify where on site the dumpsters might be, but perhaps the applicants can speak to that. Those are all permitted as accessory uses. It does not appear that the site has existing landscaping or screening, so that's something I'd point out for the commission, given the nature of the request is for outdoor storage. That's something where the commission has the discretion to require screening and has done so for other sites. But you have a lot of leeway as far as what you think is required or suitable for a given site. A couple other things I would point out, there were no changes, I don't believe, to hours of operation, employees, things of that nature. But a couple things I noticed in looking at, we did our best to pull the files existing for this property, and I compared it to the previous site plans of operation. It seemed like there was a couple other changes that may have occurred unless the documents I got were out of date, which is possible. I don't know if I had the final version that the town approved, but in addition to the outdoor storage change, what seems to be listed on the new application is that there are 15 to 20 parking stalls and a larger paved area than what was shown on other previous documents that I reviewed. There used to be a listing of 10 to 15 stalls. It doesn't appear that parking stalls are necessarily marked on site, but the dimensions of the pavement seem to have been increased. There's no change to lighting. Signage, it's possible the town approved, and maybe the commissioners recall this, I just don't have the history here to know, what has come before you. The old site plan had listed one on-building sign on the north side, and the new application states that there are 2 on-building signs about 5 by 3 foot in size. And so those are 2 things that just appeared to be different from previous site plan of operation. And the staff memo really just kind of goes through. I felt like they had most everything needed for a site plan of operation submittal. However, I didn't feel like I had the best information, a good site diagram really showing where is pavement, where are the buildings. It just seemed a little bit lacking in detail. So that's where I was just looking for, perhaps some more information on that. I know the applicant did also provide right before the meeting a sketch showing, I believe it's showing paved area. It's not necessarily to scale, but it shows the traffic flow on site. I'll go back up to the aerial. So this to me kind of gives you a sense of what's on site now, but I just don't have like a survey style diagram, to verify what the town has approved. So it looks like it's paved coming in with maybe concrete and then some like an asphalt surface in the back where we've got some, and there are stalls marked in the back for these parking areas. And I think it might go right up to the lot line, the pavement to the south lot line, but the applicant can please correct me if I'm wrong on that. And it also extends towards the front yard out here, going out toward the driveway. So all around the building is currently pavement and used for, I guess, vehicle circulation and parking. Surfacing, as far as code requirements, I just tried to point out in the staff memo things that I felt like were relevant to the request and to what you have reviewed in the past. So parking stalls, your code would require about 20 stalls. It seems like that seemed adequate, based on what's there on site. Surfacing, if there's for more than 4 vehicles, it should be surfaced and well maintained in a dustless condition. Typically that just means pavement, and there's certain types of surfaces there and they've got pavement, so that's met. I think another section 3J of your code, your zoning code requires that any non-residential off-street parking, if it abuts or faces a residential zoning district, should have a permanent planting screen, a landscape fence or wall at least 4 feet in height along the side that faces the residential. That appears to be something that wasn't required in the past, perhaps, and I don't have the full history, but I just note that that's in your zoning code. As far as stormwater plan, I could not find out if one exists for the site. And again, this is just where I might not have full information. You just did approve an amendment in January of 2020 for the parcel to the north, and that site plan of operation references a stormwater plan, but I don't know if it was done for both of these sites because they used to be one parcel, or if that was specific to the site to the north. And I don't know if Mitch knows the background on that at all, or if any of the commissioners do. So I would recommend the applicants confirm, if the existing site conditions here with all the pavement are adequately covered by the existing stormwater plan. And I did not contact Public Works and Fire about this one because it's simply just a request for outdoor storage. And the conditions, recommended conditions of approval on the staff memo, if you choose to approve this, are really just carried forward from your last approval for this property and for this operation. I just did make a minor change to condition number 5 relating to outdoor storage, saying that it shall be screened by landscaping and or fencing as determined by the Plan Commission. So if you wanted to approve it, that would be my recommendation, and would be, curious if you have feedback on that. And that, I'll leave it there. If you have other questions for me, I'm available.
Did we lose the town of Lisbon again?
Oh, looks like we did. I was wondering if they could still hear us last time. It sounded like they just picked up where, where they left off.
Rachel, do you know if that is a residence to the south of this place?
It appears to be based on the zoning and Google. I just kind of did a Google map tour,
Yeah.
but
I mean, your map from Waukesha County, they've apparently been doing their new site plan for quite a while. The year or two old map already has all the stuff stored on it.
yeah, they just put up new aerial photos actually. So these are from 2020.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I just, I think I was in the middle of preparing for this meeting and suddenly I was like, this picture looks different from what I saw
Okay, we're
yesterday.
back.
Okay.
We're back on.
Can you hear? Yeah.
Welcome back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where we lost you.
Even probably know we were gone.
Right at the point Rachel stopped talking.
So is this a new submitted site plan of operation, or is this
Yeah.
what we have on record?
Okay, so all we're changing is adding 6 storage spots in the back,
What's the purpose of the storage spots?
just because operational efficiencies in the business.
Which business?
Well, between me and Joe, I'm trying to keep his rent down, and so
So this is gonna be for your storage company, or is this gonna be for his?
well, it's mostly for me, but
Okay.
2 of them are mine. One of them is my friend, and I rent 3 spots out.
Okay, I was gonna add, so these vehicles are not vehicles that are being repaired. It's strictly for storage,
Yeah,
because it is a repair facility,
yeah,
correct?
yeah. So I mean, the reason I'm here is because storage is also a use. So
Because I know there's some vehicles being stored at just to your north, because they had
yeah,
come to us.
I have approval for 4 there,
Okay,
but now
and I'm sorry, you're the same party.
4 on that. So I thought I was already approved for that. That's the only reason I'm coming back. Otherwise, I would have done it all at the same time.
Okay, and it's, I'm sorry, Joe. It's also,
It's
it is John.
This is John, that's Joe.
Joe and John, J and J. It's gravel back there. It's
It's
not asphalt, is it?
Crushed recycled asphalt.
Okay,
Yeah, it's hard as a rock. You could bounce the golf ball off it.
okay.
So I can show you a picture of exactly what it looks like. There's, those are the, they're just in the far back against the swamp.
Okay.
I mean, it's not junk. I mean, there's
No, we can tell. I mean, there's trailers and it looked like some very expensive,
snowmobiles, trailers and both.
yeah,
I mean, there's
expensive vehicles back there.
expensive stuff.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
not, as you said, it's not junk.
Yeah, no. I just had some overflow from my storage and I thought, well, I could put it back there.
So Rachel, from what I'm reading here, is any kind of storage at behind there is supposed to be screened with fencing, but we get to determine what that is.
Yes, that's my read of your ordinance.
And the current plan of operation has, the only vehicles parked overnight are the ones that are being worked on or the ones that are, the work has been complete. That's the current site plan of operation and their employees.
Okay.
So we're adding 6 spots that had nothing to do with business.
Well, that's why I'm here to ask for that permission, yeah.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
round it out. That's all.
No, well, that's,
So the storage of the trailers would be an accessory use to his business.
would the fencing have to screen off so you couldn't see the vehicles from Colgate Road, or would it be to the back? And if it's to the back, there's a wetland back there and then there's a railroad track.
Yeah.
So I'm not too excited about the fence thing.
I own all the land to the north, that's my storage. There's a swamp to the rear.
Right.
There's nobody that lives west of or east of me on Colgate Road. There's not a single house. There's
No, it's
just
all
a house
farmland.
to the south, there's one person.
Mhm.
And that is pretty heavily screened. It's got a lot of trees and buckthorn. I mean, I could put up a fence. That's what he wanted, but he asked me not to put a fence up because then he can't get in and out of his driveway.
Yeah.
Because he has to pull onto my property because it's so tight. So his garage comes here, all the way to here. So in order to get, he doesn't have enough room. So I left him at like 5 feet there.
Well, the question may be evolve around our POA that you were granted originally, and it's, I don't know. Let's see how their
Looks like 8.
commission members think about that.
Mostly conservancy, anybody has on me. I think this map isn't accurate anymore because I think this has been removed actually. The shoreline was removed from. You went
Yes,
to-
it look, yeah, that was a past,
Shoreline.
no more county jurisdiction
Kind
here.
of across the street. What's staff's recommendation on this?
I would recommend approval with the conditions. I guess my suggestion would be to require some type of screening from the road just for consistency. You recently had a site plan before you where, well, they were volunteering quite a lot of screening, probably more than what the town would require, but from what I've seen, the town typically does want to see some type of screening for outdoor storage. That's not uncommon. But it is, it's in the plan commission's discretion per your ordinance.
As far as the amount of spots required for Joe's car care versus.
Well, he still has probably enough to park 30 cars.
According to.
Parking for cars.
So are we reducing the number of spots for those car care then?
No, it's still the same amount. Where he's at in the back, behind the building, I really don't utilize any of that space.
It was just dead space and I was just trying to increase, like I said, operational efficiencies and a lot of people aren't paying and I thought
Yeah, and as far as a staff recommendation, one thing and I apologize to the applicant, I didn't get to reach out to him prior to this, but I would really like, just for the town's records, to have a clear site exhibit. I mean, what you see up on the screen is what was included in the packet, but again, this does not give any indication of where pavement exists on site. It shows no landscaping or vegetation on site. So typically, as a site plan, you would see those things. You'd have some kind of site diagram showing exactly what it is today as of the date you approve something, so that in the future, if someone has a question of what the town approved, you could pull that map up and see that. You know, in this case, it was just very hard to make sense of what was approved or not. And I think having a more detailed diagram would be helpful for this. Perhaps that could be a condition of approval if you're okay with what he's proposing.
I think it's,
I can do that.
I'd have to agree with the planner. We need to know exactly where you're putting your spots. I mean,
Sure.
because looking at this, you've got something over
Kathy,
here,
can you-
you got them.
I don't know if Mark can hear you.
Yeah, that's old. That's not, but the only things that are in the back are in the far back.
But I think what Rachel was saying and what I'm agreeing with is
Yeah.
that we need a site plan to
Sure.
show us where those 6 spots
Sure.
are. So we know that those 6 spots are exactly where you're looking to put something and how large of an item you're looking to put. Are you
Sure.
putting travel trailers in there or are you putting utility trailers in
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, they're just, did you see this? Did you get, this is what exactly I drew this.
Rachel said we did not need to include that in packets.
Well, and for Joe's Car Care to just identify, even if they're not striped on site, you know, where are they using parking stalls? It looks to me like there's an, adequate space, and Mr. Pemberton did say he has adequate space even with the parking right now. If he were to grow in the future, that could pose a concern for the business, but it doesn't sound like that's an issue currently.
Right, yeah, it's not currently an issue. Future growth, I think, is gonna be slow.
You're awfully close to,
Pandemic passes.
you're awfully close to the upland corridor there too. There's a little piece of upland corridor and then there's a conservancy right behind it. And if this is a recent picture, the one vehicle might even be in the upland corridor.
Well, it's still, it's delineated, so we had everything delineated when
So
the
you-
original.
So you know where
So
the,
you're already doing this.
Pardon?
You're already doing this.
Well, yeah, they're already there. I mean, it would take me, I'd have to, if it doesn't get approved, I'll just have to have them take them out in the spring. I mean, as a matter of, this is the guy that's next to me, that's his storage.
Yeah, we got a Waukesha County's, I can see them all in here. I don't know if everybody else can, but you've got some chalk lines on there from the
Yeah.
image I'm seeing here. So, Chad, where you at?
Guess the only thing I have, I mean, how would you screen this if we would require screening? You'd almost have to go in front of the building itself roadside. I mean, right? I mean, you guys utilize all the way around.
Financially, it's, if I have to screen the front, it's just not even worth it. I'm just gonna bail on it and figure something else out.
I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with it. There's hardwoods all the way around it. It's just a matter of seeing it from,
If it's bothering somebody
Colgate
that
Road.
much,
yeah.
then, we're gonna have to put
It's
a $5,000 fence up, then.
Yeah, it's not so much that, John. It's the next guy that comes in and
Yeah.
says, well, he's doing it. Why can't I do it?
I understand. I don't have a problem with it.
And nobody's saying it's bothering anybody, 'cause it's already
Yeah.
there. It's just, it's part of the code we have to consider.
yes, and as you saw tonight with the development of subdivisions, should someone decide to subdivide and develop the subdivision across the other side of the road,
Yeah.
then it becomes another issue. Because you have residents that are looking, looking west. But
And now we have farm fields.
now it's farm fields.
But I don't even think you can,
Not
even
much
if you look
longer.
west, I don't even think you can see them.
Right,
Well, you-
it's behind
you
all
can
the
see those
storage
two right
facilities.
there.
Yeah,
So, and this thing's been there since what, 1960?
yes, I mean, the building was put in when we were still country, so to speak.
I know.
They used to be heating place. The building and the house used to be together. It used to be a
Yeah.
heating company.
A heating company? Okay.
That's why
Thanks,
they
Ron.
were together.
Where are you at with this, Brian?
You know, I'm okay with it. I'm kind of with Chad. And I agree with Kathy. I think they should be a designated spot, and that's pretty much it. As far as screening goes, I'm just trying to figure in my head how you could screen it. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be a screening in front of the property, but you have a lot of use and you say you don't use much of it in the
Well,
back.
You gotta be able to drive around the building.
Right.
Okay.
We started putting up, and you gotta be able to plow snow back there.
Sure.
My garbage truck actually comes around that back side of the building, to empty the trash.
Okay.
And then I got tires stored back there, so they're out of sight.
So we have had a complaint about this.
I mean, this is what it looked like 10 years ago.
So
This is what it looked like after I cleaned it up.
we had a recent complaint about this.
Yeah, I know.
So that's why you're here.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise, we wouldn't even know you were doing it.
I know.
Um,
Like I said, I don't have a big problem with it. It's not gonna kill me financially.
Right, but I mean, as far as that, there's some, as far as the screening goes.
And I don't want to put you guys in a difficult position either, so I understand.
My neighbor.
You're aware of the complaint?
Yeah, Brian told me about it, so.
Here you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I just know it's a use under B3, so that's why I even.
It's just that
bothered to
complaint
come here.
actually follows along with our zoning as far as our code, as far as the screening.
Yeah, okay.
So the complaint is directly in line with that,
So.
which makes this more difficult.
The screening would have to be, is trees and bushes screening, or would it have to be a fence?
Well, the trees and, I guess I don't have, did you see a picture from the ground level?
I didn't, well, I guess you can see
We received one. It's in the packets.
back here, this is all the trees on this side.
Yeah.
But then there's that driveway, and then it goes all on here.
Sorry.
Would just be a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
sounds
work.
like you'd have to probably screen on the south side of the property.
Yeah, south side to the house, and then if you guys require it along the Colgate Road.
I don't think Colgate Road
No.
is so much of an issue.
No.
I would say the south side of the property.
Our
would
code
probably
states
be-
that it must be up against the residential
Okay.
separation.
The guy from the south is the guy who complained, but yet he uses this driveway that's connecting here.
Well, yeah, I let him, I didn't block him completely off because he wouldn't have enough room to get in his garage. And then he's got a duplex there, but he's only zoned for single family. So I think his renter is the one complaining who doesn't, who he built a whole new addition, remodeled his house, and then now he has a duplex there.
Okay, and that's
And
just,
he's got
that's,
single home residential, so I think it's his new renter, his new single home resident, his new renter that complained.
This is how neighbor disputes start.
But I never been,
Throwing them under the bus in front of the plan commission isn't gonna gain you any points
No,
for the guy
but
that needs to agree to this without putting screening up, John.
no, I know.
That's called the nuclear option. We're trying to make friends here.
I
We don't
know.
wanna throw people under the bus worse. Because if they make a lot of noise, we have to enforce our zoning there.
but I don't know if it was him, the guy, it might have been the renter.
You just threw someone
The new
under the bus
renter.
that you don't even know it's him.
Well, because I asked
A lot
him
of bus
before.
wheels spinning here, buddy.
Yeah,
So what do we want to do with the screening? Do we want screening on the south side? We've got a complaint. It's a legitimate complaint as far as
If
our
it's-
zoning states we should have a fence there. If you're gonna fence on the south side, is that gonna kill this deal?
no, I mean, me and Joel go look at it. Joe, what do you think?
Well, it's already a wood, it's like a tree line on that side of the. except
We have
for
enough
the
of a berm where I
concrete
could
is-
pound it in, right?
Yeah, we could get enough of a, punch some holes in the concrete, put posts in, put a fence in.
A screening, not just like a chain.
And it would have to be, oh, okay, so like.
Chain link, you can see right through.
yeah, it would be, it would have to be like a
Some
privacy
kind of
fence.
screening, privacy style fence.
Sure, so yeah, just across the concrete, a privacy fence, and on the other ends, it's already trees and berm.
Is this something you guys want to review and come back to us before we go over this, see if it's
I mean,
feasible?
I think we can do it, but it's,
Why don't we
Yeah, we're
come
gonna
back
need
with a
that shown.
table and you guys come back with an
Yeah.
actual true proposal of what
yeah,
that
let's do
screening's
that.
gonna look like, and that way it gives you guys some time to critically think a little bit, and
You
then
know the concerns, Brian. Can you work with?
Yeah.
Yes.
It also gives you an opportunity to do a cost analysis. How much is this going to cost?
Exactly.
Right.
And then,
Et cetera, without right now tonight saying, yeah, we can do this, but you don't know.
and that'll give me a little time if we decide not to do it, to wait till spring, like, you know, ask them to leave. So,
Yeah.
Technically, they're not supposed to be there now.
yeah,
So
okay,
this is luck. We want to proceed as quickly as possible.
yeah,
obviously.
okay.
So I guess the two things to bring it back would be work with Brian on the fence, John
Okay.
and Joel. And then if we could get just more specific layout of where the 6 spots are.
Okay.
I can work with the staff on it. They'll get everything
Not
figured
just the
out.
6 spots. The 6 spots are important, but also on this, it'd be nice to know what,
Hard
where
circuit.
you're parking your cars as well. So we
It's
can
just-
count the
Mhm.
parking spots.
North,
Joe's has
Well, they're not
so many
really-
parking
They're not
spots.
really
and-
strict out or anything.
That's all right. We
No.
just
So
draw
just-
'em out.
you guys can work with them on that. We don't talk about that anymore tonight, but so north side is you. You obviously don't have an
Yeah.
issue with this. And the other side is agricultural, so we're only talking about the south side with the fence, right? And the back side's the railroad. I'm sure the train would love to see campers over there and don't care.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're just talking about the south side screening. for
Just the
residents.
south.
See if it's feasible, John. And it doesn't look like it's a no.
Who, was it the renter, or was it the owner? Can I
Doesn't
find
matter.
out?
It
Because
doesn't
like, because
I can't tell you anyway.
We can't say.
Okay.
It
that's
doesn't
fine.
matter.
All right.
I just want to make one comment too. I mean, these cars that you said were only going to be parked there if their repairs were delayed or overnight or whatever. There's at least 6 of them in this picture that was in our packet that are on, at 2 or maybe 3 sides of this building. Maybe some of those cars could be parked a little more orderly and some of those trailers straightened out so it didn't look like there's just a bunch of haphazard stuff parked there.
True. Okay. Any other concerns, Mark? I forgot you were there. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, other than, I don't know what I guess I understand what the complaint is from this neighbor to the south and whatever screening would have to be accomplished to do that. I don't know. I'd be in favor of vegetation rather than a fence, but I don't know. It looks like you might have driveway across there too, that vegetation may not be possible. But even from the road with all these, just from Colgate Road, it looks like kind of a junkyard really, with these cars parked in all different directions all the way around the building, and the trailers are parked on all different angles. And so, I mean, I guess when this comes back here, I mean, I would like to see some designation as to where these cars are parking. This looks a little more orderly, not just wherever it happened to land is where it is.
Okay.
As far as the screening, are we looking to go, we're not looking to go all the way to Colgate Road here. We're just talking to the back of the building, I'm assuming.
So he's approved for car sales too. So, I mean, where,
Right, yeah.
It's all stuff to consider.
pardon?
It's all stuff to consider to make sure there's enough room for everything.
No, he is approved for car sales. So there's plenty of room, so.
Right, but he's approved as it stands now, not approved with what's there. I mean, if you have to consider the whole parcel with car sales and with
Yeah.
what you're proposing back there.
All right, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to abandon I made a mental decision. I'm just gonna abandon the storage. And I'm gonna work on getting them out of there.
So you're not gonna request this anywhere, they need to go then.
All right, well then Joe and I'll work on it tomorrow. We'll come back. I mean, some of them are plowed in. I mean, they're not, not plowed in totally, but they're not gonna come get their camper and drive it down to Salt.
Well, listen to what you wanna do. We can make a motion to postpone this, and then if you decide to do nothing, it doesn't come back.
Why don't we do, that's the best scenario then, right?
I would say that's what you want us to do.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Let's make a motion to postpone.
Motion to postpone.
Table or postpone? We get both ends of this. We want table?
Table.
Gina was big on postpone, everybody else was big on table.
Table.
I would table it.
Motion to
Table.
Who wants to make that motion?
So move.
Who wants a second?
I'll second.
Ed made it, Brian seconded, no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. So will this be another month then?
Well, at the table, you can talk to the staff. It would be next, you can bring it back next month if you can get it ready in time, otherwise it'll be the month after.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll go back to item 5, discussion approval of minutes.
Yep, I had a chance to look them over and I will
Hang
approve.
on, hang on.
Hang on.
I have. Can't find my email with them. Mark, did you get a chance to look them over?
No, I'll abstain.
They were in the
Today.
hard copy.
Today, but I went digital
Yes.
before this and I can't find it. I've just looked 3 times, but I can't find the email.
Super
I
reader.
Sent it this afternoon.
Okay, you cannot send minutes the same day. These minutes gotta go with the packet or they're not, or these real close, because nobody's got time to look and go over something that important the same day.
Okay.
So I would like a motion to table these minutes to the next meeting.
So move.
Is there a
We
second?
table or postpone?
I don't know.
Let's
Kidding.
just table them.
There's a
We'll
motion to
table.
table. Who's gonna second that?
I'll second.
Chad seconds. No
Yeah,
discussion. All in
behave.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mark, where you at?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Also, when you do these, can you list out the what minutes are on here?
Yes.
It just- Then we are back to old business, B. So 6B, discussion and possible action regarding proposed amendments to various sections of Chapter 11 of Town Zoning Code related to conditional use permits due to a recent change in state law.
Oh, yes. Time to change what's on the screen here. Okay. So this one, yeah, I did provide an updated staff memo for your packets on this one and an updated red line copy. The red lines that you see in the ordinance section are just showing a comparison versus what you saw in December. So we took that version and then assumed that that was good to go and then redline that. So you can just kind of focus on the changes that were made since December. The staff memo tries to outline the changes that we did make. I worked with the town attorney on this one. I will just say up front that we both think that there's a little more work needed to this one. We still are working on a land use table. I apologize that that's not ready. It just takes more time, and we've had a lot of things coming through the pipeline. So it's I'm doing my best here, but can't always get those pieces done, I guess. But that would be a nice thing to include in your ordinance when it's ready. There's also a couple things we've noticed in the course of preparing for this meeting. There are some other references to various subsections of your section 4 in other parts of the zoning code. So I think we still need to take another look at that and just try to catch those references to the extent that if something changes in here, we don't want the references to be incorrect elsewhere in your chapter 11. So I guess I can go through the code here. I should zoom in. Can you see this text? Is it legible on the screen at all? It's probably tricky to read.
If anyone can read that, say aye.
Easy to read here.
Oh, braggart.
I'm sitting a foot away from the screen.
Yeah. I guess for those of you who have it in your packets, I will
You have hard.
I'll talk about the page number and everything as well. So 4A5, this is just in the up front here. Sorry, trying to do this on the screen is tricky. This is where it talks about only uses listed as conditional uses shall be authorized. There's already language about that in section 3D, so we wanted to just simplify that a bit. B4, this is under application requirements. We talked about legal descriptions at the last meeting. Now are proposing when required by the town. So you have discretion on if you think a legal description is really necessary. Otherwise, as we discussed last month, it's typically included in someone's deed, so it shouldn't be too hard to track down. This is more for if you think something is warranted there, if a conditional use is, a portion of a site or something like that, you can require that. I think your current code even, gets at that. So that's not a big change. Subsection C, this is on the next page on approval process. You discussed that you gave us guidance on requiring legal notices sent out 300 feet. That would match what you do for rezonings, so there wouldn't be a discrepancy. And we also established the 90-day time limit for town action. removing the 60 days specific to Plan Commission, just giving you a straight 90 days to process these through the full process. D1, this is on the next page here. So the substantial evidence, now this relates to the new state laws. And we discussed this at the last meeting. Hopefully we captured your feedback here. I guess where we landed is that we still included a specific definition that's currently in statutes, but wanted to just mention that that term is defined in Wisconsin statutes. And that way if the statutes change or the specific place it's defined, this would still reference back to that.
I can add a point to that because Mark, I know
Thank
you,
you.
mentioned your preference to have something expressly cited. Substantial evidence is defined in 3 different statutes, cities, villages, and towns.
That's it.
You know, that this number could actually vary pretty quickly here in the next, hopefully year or so as to what statute we're referencing, because it may not be the town of Lisbon that it's necessarily referring to. So the point being was to keep it a little bit more broad in an effort to create a little bit more flexibility, especially in a statute that also may be more subject to change than other municipal statutes as well. So that's why it was done that way.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. It just makes more work that, somebody has to be kind of paying attention to what the statute is. My belief is that we're probably going to be embarrassed down the road because the statute will change, the ordinance won't, and somebody will come in and stand up before us and say, well, your ordinance says it's the statute, but the information you have, the rest of your ordinance is wrong. But I understand what you're saying, and I'm not arguing to change what's there today.
Commission, okay?
Yes.
Becky?
Yeah.
Right.
Anything else on that section?
No, you can go back ahead. I just wanted to add that point.
Oop. Sorry. A little further down in that section, we talked about the proposed use not injuring the use and enjoyment of the property, removing the word enjoyment because the use of the property we determined typically means the same thing. So that was a redundant word. Down under conditions of approval, now we're looking at 4E3. Oh yeah, other permits and approvals. This is just language we wanted to clean up. I think hopefully we captured your concerns on this one. We discussed that sections 2 and 3, that it just seemed a little confusing the way this was worded. So rather than saying upon approval by the Plan Commission, the applicant has to provide substantial evidence that their conditional use meets the conditional use requirements. That seemed a little odd just as far as timing. What does that really mean? Rather than confuse everybody, we just leave it at, no building permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued for use that doesn't comply with the requirements of the CUP, because then that gives the applicant a chance to make sure everything is complying. Then they get their permits. It kind of flows in a logical order. Next one is in G. This relates to the duration, transfers, or when different uses might expire. This one gives applicants now 12 months to commence operation or get a building permit. We remove language about seasonal businesses because if you increase that to 12 months, the seasonal aspect is not really relevant then. But upping it from, it had been 6 months from issuance of a building permit, just to kind of make that simpler and give people a year to move ahead with their projects. And then the rest of we have transfer of ownership. We just say that in the event that ownership is transferred, the town may require submittal of a new site plan of operation under this ordinance. That's, what's provided for in your section 3 for site plans of operation. And then in section 4H, we did a lot of, a lot of minor tweaks in there for the most part, but this is where the table will come into play as well. Since this section 4 is specific to conditional uses, we didn't want to have this section saying, here's where it's permitted, here's where it's prohibited, sometimes here, maybe not. well, try to deal with all of that in the zoning districts where those, special provisions apply. It seemed a little less confusing and a less, hopping around back and forth in the code when you're trying to make sense of it at the staff level. So you'll see in all these different sections where it lists specific uses, we're referencing table 1. The idea is that would be attached to the zoning ordinance as towards the back. And that's another way to kind of quickly see across all the districts where different land uses are permitted or conditional. We addressed, and then there were specific comments. I kind of went through the highlights and notes that we had taken at the last meeting. I think item 11 was the next one. All these changes are just either changing conditional use to CUP, trying to kind of shorten the wording. And all these red lines you're seeing are in the same vein, just trying to shorten up that language and not repeat stuff in code that it gives you more chance for error. For contractor's yard, we did discuss a bit the planting screen. So where you've got, storage of materials and so on in a larger facility, the planting screen had been 10 feet high in initial height. Maybe mature. Anyway, you had said you should be 6 feet high planting screen initial height for contractors' yards. That's what my note said from December. So we made that change. And just feel free to stop me at any point if I'm going too fast or if you have a question on something specific. But sometimes I drag things out and I don't mean to, so I'll try to keep things moving. Marinas, here we had marinas and boat liveries. There had been a prohibition on arcades that just seemed a little one-off. So you said that could be stricken. We got rid of that. And I'm gonna try to do faster. Oh, I had a highlight on here. This is for, sorry, in the memo I've kind of separated out the questions. So on this one for private clubs and resorts, I had a note, and maybe we touched on it briefly in the last meeting, but the 3-acre lot size, it says except in the B1 restricted business district or less restrictive district. I mean, that's a little confusing the way it's worded, but I'm curious if you have any burning desire to keep the 3-acre requirement. Do you have to specify a district, or is it more like you think a club and resort needs 3 acres? Do you think that the whole paragraph A could be stricken, or just not knowing the background again, or where you have private clubs and resorts in the town, maybe there's a good reason for that, but I just wanted to ask you about that if you have feedback.
Do we have any resorts at all? That's right. Sherwood Forest. Sherwood Forest. Gun Club. Okay. They're not resorts. No, they're private clubs.
You have country clubs, right?
Okay. True.
My question on this section was, how can something not be open to the general public, like a driving range or a campground or a golf course? I mean, I understand if you're a members only golf course, I get that, but a members only campground? I mean, I guess if you're going to have a campground, you probably need 3 acres. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
yeah.
You need less than 3 acres to do any of these things.
Yeah.
And would that just be something the landowner would already be considering as a practical matter, or does it have to be regulated in the zoning code?
Well, what if
I don't care if you keep it, but I just raising the question.
There's no substantial evidence to say no. The point, I'd rather stick with the 3 acres. I know it might sound a little petty, but I think it could avoid some problems.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Mark, how do you feel about that?
You just said you were in favor of leaving it in?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
The second portion there, Rachel, the less restrictive district part there, or I guess
Yeah.
the whole second half of that paragraph, except in B1 restricted business district or less restricted district.
I guess I would read that, Michael, to mean like B1 or a less restrictive, meaning a district that wouldn't require 3 acres, that might allow smaller lots? Is that what that should mean? In other words, if the zoning district only requires 1 acre, well, no, it still doesn't make sense to me. Sorry. Your planner can't make sense of this one.
It just appears ambiguous.
Yeah. Is there a need to specify B1, or you want to just say 3 acres, period? I was thinking that maybe the B1 was put in there because there might be an operation that had that situation, and somebody, sometimes that language gets put into an ordinance because, oh, so-and-so, well, that's an existing thing, so let's specify that in the code as an exception. But then over time, it's not clear why that was put in there, and I wouldn't want to negatively affect someone if they did get approved under that provision, but unless you know of a B1 zoned club of this kind, I don't know.
Well, I mean, a
Might
firing-
not hurt to keep it, I don't know, just.
An indoor firing range
It could be.
in B1. I guess I don't understand the less restrictive though either.
Yeah, I don't understand the B1 either. I mean, how are you gonna have any of these things with less than 3 acres?
Well, like an indoor firing range, Mark? Like an indoor gun range?
Private for yourself, not open to the public?
And I actually don't see B1 on your zoning map currently, the latest one we published.
I suppose if, as a matter of simplicity here, I think the concern, if you eliminate or less restrictive district, and if you want to keep in B1, then, then it reads, okay, whatever stated in the table, it's a use that's, a conditional use. In the event that it's on a parcel that's less than 3 acres, well, then that's got to be zone B1. And that's how we would, I think there's, where it becomes ambiguous is what the heck does less restrictive mean? Is that meant in the zoning sense, or is that meant more in how the property is just used generally? I think if you guys would just cut the last 4 words there, you probably can find, be pretty confident in just how this reads then. And then it would encompass that indoor gun club that is 1.5 acres in B1, if you follow. That make a little more
Yeah,
sense.
that would help me out too.
I like that.
And you could also identify more too, except in B1, or if you wanted to add a couple more in there if you felt.
I think Mark's, I mean, I said the gun club, but I guess, yeah, it is kind of weird to have a private gun club like that indoors, but I don't know. I really don't know what you put in these.
I mean, this wouldn't even apply if somebody was just coming in and asking for a conditional use, would it? For a public club where the public was gonna be allowed to come in?
This is just private clubs and resorts. I suppose when we got a lot of lakes, AKA the Corey's changes might be something.
Mm-hmm.
My great grandchildren might.
Yeah, yeah. About 2090.
About 20 plan reviews later.
I bet you'll have a different zoning code by then.
Yeah, we'll be a village.
You know what?
Exactly.
That would be nice.
All right, so we're just.
Strike or
those
less
last 4
restrictive,
words.
What Mike stated.
yeah, or less restrictive. Just
Yep, those last 4 words.
strike that.
Yep, and now
All right.
it's got to be 3 acres unless it's a B1.
You guys are happy with that?
It's not gonna affect anything on our lifetime.
No, we are ecstatic, Rachel.
Perfect.
Ecstatic, I like it. You don't hear that word at a plan commission meeting very often. So.
I was gonna say, it's getting a little late to be ecstatic.
Until you adjourn, right? You'll get very happy when that happens. I'm getting punchy. Okay. 24. Just have to find it here. Scrolling through. Oh, I skipped it. I'm sorry. Oh, the public and semi-public. That was the double offset requirement for those buildings that just seemed the only place in the code where that comes up. And You agreed to strike that, so we got rid of that sentence. 25. Oh, I'm going in the wrong direction. So for quarries, that's sub-item 25. I also want to ask the general question, does the text here accurately reflect your permit requirements? Because it does reference quarrying permits. I didn't get to loop back with staff on that to understand. I just don't personally know all the types of permits you might require for quarries. So I'd ask you to look at that language. Otherwise, we did cut some language about the public hearing process and the standards applicable to quarries. If it was redundant with the general requirements for all CUPs, we tried to get rid of that. But if it's unique to the quarries, you know, there's additional distance for public notices, for example, we kept that in there. And some cleanup to where the sections are referenced, but those are the only changes made to the quarry use section. And there was a provision for getting permits for existing quarry operations. That seems like it only really applied when the zoning code was established. So we took that out per your guidance too from last month. That's where it is here on packet page 23. I'll keep going down. The next section is communication towers and related facilities. This is a tricky one with also with state laws now, you know, had new language about this section. So Michael worked some magic on this to get it more in line here with state statutes.
So
Just removed a lot of the old language, and I'll let you, Michael, if you want to comment on this section.
yeah, it's
Or not.
one of those particular uses that you'll find, frankly, the procedure all lined out in statute. So it's one of those, let's summarize it in our ordinance and then reference the statute. Now, I do have flagged here, Rachel, just so you know, we probably should tweak the last section in communication tower so we're not referencing that number. I broke my own rule there. So we'll need to tweak that and probably just reference the titles that are currently stated in those statutes right now.
Okay.
So I can make that tweak very quickly, but that was the goal with communication towers, and also to hopefully even simplify and shorten our own ordinance and just let the applicant know if they ever come to the plan commission that, you know, we're going to follow statute in this regard for this particular use.
And these applicants usually know their statutes anyway when they come forward, right?
Yes.
And
Yes,
Michael,
yeah.
I'm assuming down the road, if all we're hearing about 5G, that they're gonna require more towers, not less.
Well, there is actually some obligations for people who make those applications to try to consolidate first. But you actually have to demonstrate a good faith effort that you've worked with another company to share towers and stuff like that. So the answer is kind of yes and no. That yes, with 5G, there's going to be, you know, a greater, you know, supply and demand, but these companies can't just start throwing towers up anywhere. There's got to be some consolidation effort as well. So that's how the statute balances it in that regard.
Okay, because the area that I reside in, there are 4, to my knowledge, there are 4 towers within 2 miles. Well, I not specifically. And they disappear after a while. You know, after they've been there for a year or two, they don't see them anymore. But
Put one of them in my neighborhood, Ed. I could use it.
yeah. So you feel my pain, Mark?
What?
Never mind.
Now
Anyway,
there are some distance restrictions, I believe, in here, if I recall correctly, or at least the consideration about distance to try to.
Yeah, located to minimize visibility and the number of tower sites. The applicant should make a good faith effort to achieve co-location with existing tower locations elsewhere in the town. Should be no closer than a quarter mile from another tower unless it's situated on a multi-tower lot.
That's the best you can get, I think, by statute is a quarter mile. Which shows
and
the
that-
powers companies have, obviously, statute. But this kind of does the best you can to try to combine these companies and what
Oh.
they do.
Okay, well, the reason I was asking, and I know this, we're all getting tired. There are 2 towers in Community Park alone, and they are definitely not a quarter mile apart. They're just on, they just put them up on the We Energies high tension towers that runs through the town and parallels the railroad track. Anyway, they're definitely not a quarter mile apart. So anyway, move on. Sorry.
There's several places you want to put the towers back side by side.
Yes.
You see them quite often.
Now, if they're on the same parcel of lot, then that doesn't apply in that situation. It's gotta be 2 completely distinct lots and parcels. So that could be 2 if they're, I should have added that caveat there. There's an exception. We're allowed
Well,
to do in the
I
same-
mean, I know why they did it for convenience purposes. Electricity was, well, these things require a lot of electric. So they were convenient. The towers were already there. So they just put them at the top of the towers.
Hmm.
Anyway, they didn't even have to put up a new tower for their communication devices or whatever they're called in the industry, the huge discs.
And our existing towers somehow exempted or allowed to continue, I would imagine.
Yes.
I would think so.
Yeah. They would be subject to our old code or current code too.
Okay.
We can send our building inspector out there though.
He could climb up the tower. I mean, there you go. Poor man.
Just might do it. All right, are we good on communication towers or is there anything else on that?
I'm good.
Okay, hearing that, I'll move into 30. This section here, this relates to outdoor commercial recreation facilities. And the funny thing was it references 4H10, which relates to commercial truck parking. And it just, the way it read, I could not figure out what was intended by that and why that was referencing that section. So proposing that language get stricken unless you see any reason why it should stay in there. Because you've already got other provisions. I mean, if there's commercial truck parking, that's handled under its own conditional use. That's still in your code. And this other text was just related to where it's conditional. Well, that's stated in the districts and it will be in that table as a reference.
Fine with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Great. Then 36 is for self-storage mini warehouses, just taking out some text that seemed to be duplicating. Yeah, I hear a list for what needs to be submitted. Well, this stuff was already stated below, so we just struck this list and clean this area up a little bit, but it still has all the same requirements that your code currently has, so no big changes there. The other thing is truck washes. Did not make changes to that, but you had asked me to look into what the county's requirements are so that you weren't doing something outside the bounds of what they would already require. They actually don't have regulations specific to truck washes, I learned. So they said they're thinking about adding something like that to their zoning code, but don't have it yet. So what we have in here is, pretty minimal. I didn't want to go nuts with the truck washes unless you had some specific concern. But right now we're just recommending that they be on a collector or arterial. That's because of the large truck traffic. Then have some kind of waste disposal or recycling plan for disposal of the water. I have not actually reviewed one of these before, so I haven't seen that. I know I got this language from somewhere and I just don't recall which ordinance right now. It was somewhere, it could be Menominee Falls. It could be another community a little further east, but and then just complying with any wastewater treatment, water quality performance standards. I think that came from another part of your ordinance, so seemed applicable here. But if you have comments on that or want to see changes, we're happy to make those. All right. That's all the comments I have on that. Unless you have anything for me,
I
you
got
could bring this.
here at
Yeah.
about 5 o'clock from Chris and Marilyn McDonnell, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm gonna send this email. I mean, it's addressing several different sections and forward to all the plan commission members too. But on this chapter 11, yeah, I didn't see it until just now. Getting an email at 5 o'clock is difficult.
Yeah.
So I will forward this on. I'll forward this to everybody. Obviously, this isn't being decided here tonight, so.
That'll give us a chance to look at that between now and next month and see what we can do there.
Our intended plan, I think, and Rachel, you can comment on this, would be to come back hopefully in next month with a pretty solid form here with what this thing's gonna look like. I think the last items, orders of business, depending what's in that email, would be to just ensure some consistency throughout this entire ordinance about calling things the same names, using the same acronyms, using the same format, repetitively, so it is very clean, professional looking, and then hopefully the county can get to it quick. Rachel, you provided it, I think, already to the county.
Yes, I did.
Get some initial thoughts, and I haven't seen an email back, so I guess we'll just wait and see what they come back with, and then hopefully this thing can get wrapped up. At least, from the our end in the next month or two, and then now it's in the county's court.
Okay. Anything else in this one?
I got nothing else.
Not me.
All right. I don't really think anybody here is real excited about going over a 10-year comprehensive plan tonight. I think we're gonna postpone that till our next meeting.
All right. I would just, can I make one request of you guys? Not for tonight, but outside of it. I've been a little torn about just trying to keep this update minimal. At some point, I would just like feedback, and whether that's, offline outside the meeting. If you have any comments, want to look at the draft that's online, I would love to get any feedback you have on the language and proposing in Exhibit C in particular. We're just trying to give a sort of a brief recap of where the town's at these days, 10 years later after your last plan, what's different. But I just hope I'm like striking the right tone, giving enough information, but not too much. But you don't have to spell out every gory thing in your comp plan. It's meant to be a very high level document. At the same time, I wanted it to be something that's, accurate and useful to the town, and that might also prove helpful for your next incorporation attempt. But, if there's any concerns or other things you have about your plan, I know it's a very complicated document. It's very complicated to read and try to interpret. It's interesting to me that citizens are really picking that up and, looking at pieces of it. I think that's great that people are interested in the plan. It's not the most user-friendly document, unfortunately. And so making any changes to the content of the chapters is something I'm a little skittish about doing, just because you could really, make it inconsistent by changing one sentence or something. But I wanted to meet your needs. So it's your plan. And so I just want to put that out there. Especially because I don't have a long history with the town. So I want to make sure that it's what you think it should be.
All right.
Noble goals.
Yeah, and that'll be the public hearing in February. And we'll see what the public comes with, if they have any comments.
Okay.
With the realization you're not going to satisfy everyone, you've listened to enough meetings, you saw that tonight. But it's input.
Planner report.
Planner report. I didn't put it in slide form tonight. I'm sorry about that, but we have had some today was a busy day of planner appointments. We had, let me just, I'm looking for the list here. Had an interest in a potential residential project, senior living, assisted living, kind of continuum of care type concept for a parcel just south side of Howard Lane. And Kathy, if you want to add more detail on these, feel free to interrupt me or anything. I'd kind of give a brief update usually. And that was one appointment. We had one for a solar field installation, so solar panels on, I don't know if I'm describing the quarry correctly, if it's Lannon West, but it's the one just south of Lisbon Road. They were just before you last year for a berm and an expansion of their asphalt plant. So they want to do a solar field that will be coming soon, I think, before you. We met over a garage discussing the ins and outs of in-law units with another landowner, and another interesting situation with landowners who wanted to swap land and kind of adjust their lot line. They ran into an issue there, something with the county, but also learning that they have different zoning on the parcels. So your ordinance currently, your subdivision code says that it does not apply to transfers of land between owners, but that's true as long as the resulting lots don't violate any ordinance provisions. So your ordinance is, you have to have a, zoning consistent on the lot. You can't just create a lot that has split zoning, but also your ordinance generally prohibits two frontages or double frontage lots. And that's something that would be happening here. This is on North Road, just a little southwest of Carrick's proposal. I'm trying to remember the name of the other street. Anyway, but that was a case where we, at the staff level, determined that they would need to do a CSM for this particular lot line adjustment. They couldn't just do it by a warranty deed or something because of the zoning issue and the double frontage. That's something that has to come before Plan Commission. But in that case, there was already another access approved and a driveway and a culvert installed. So it's sort of a oops kind of thing, but just, there's different regulations that apply. So those are coming in, and I'm trying to think of what we have on the agenda next month tentatively. Obviously the comprehensive plan 10-year update, public hearing at least. Trying to think of what else we'll have, Kathy and Elisa. We might see Joe's car care come back next month. I guess we saw that tonight.
All right.
I do keep a list. I just don't have it in front of me right now. I should have that.
That's right. Honestly.
Yeah, you'll have a bunch of interesting things. And
anything else? Anyone? Item 9 is adjournment.
So move.
By Ed, second. Seconded by Chad. No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:54.
Good night, everyone.
Hi, Mark.
Good night, Mark. Come back some.